Hello, good evening everyone, and a very warm welcome as ever to another live stream with me, 320 Sim Pilot. Great to see you all here. We are going to be jumping back into Microsoft Flight Simulator today in the fly-by-wire A32NX. This is the latest experimental version. Got a few nice new features, and then we're going to take it for a relatively short flight from Paris Charles de Gaulle down to Palma de Mallorca LEPA, the famous one. We've been there I think a couple of times on the channel, but it's the new JustFlight one that they've kindly sent over. So we're going to go and see what it looks like and have a bit of a drive around on the ground maybe, because of course the default one a little bit lacking in Microsoft Flight Simulator. But the plane is sitting here, it's powered up. We haven't done the route or any of the MCDU load up, it's just sort of sitting here. We're on VATSIM. I think we've got that up and running finally in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it's been a little while since we've been in Microsoft Flight Simulator on the A32NX, so I wanted to give it another go. It's always a nice treat to take it for a spin. Thank you all for coming along. It's a bit of an odd time and a very late notification from me, so it's a bit of a last minute thing today. But it was great to get the chance to jump in a stream, so couldn't resist it. So MCCL, thanks for coming along, and we'll see you next time if you can't make it today. Dana J. Suresh, I hope you're doing well. David Malroy, Richard B, thanks for coming and moderating. Yosa Mitzel, thanks for coming along as well, and Dave Geimer. And yeah, it's great to have so many of you come along. Thanks for those new follows on Twitch. We are, of course, on Twitch and YouTube, as is usual these days. So yeah, great to see you here. Kai Simon, good to see you. Igloo Fu, great to have you here as well. Mark S, it is indeed a short flight, but yeah, not too much time for questions, but still, we'll manage to get a few in, I'm sure. Hayden J Robbins, good to see you. Hayden J Robbins asks, when's the Concorde Extravaganza? So this is a special livery. AC455 made this livery. It wasn't made by me, but it does celebrate our 50,000 subscriber mark, which we reached not that long ago. And yeah, it's a lovely bit of fun. This isn't the celebratory stream. Our 50,000 subscriber stream is meant to be in Concorde. I promised I'd do that. It was either long haul or Concorde. We all agreed on Concorde. I have so far managed to turn on Concorde once, and I got it to take off. And the flight lasted all of 2 minutes. You can imagine how that flight ended. So it's not it's not about to happen, but it's in progress. I was very pleased. I got it from cold and dark, turned on the engines. Next step, I've got to figure out how to navigate it around a little bit using just conventional navigate, and then we'll learn the INS. Then we'll go from there. So anyway, Concorde is in progress, I promise, but it's hard. It's really hard. It's one of the hardest ones hardest airplanes I've had to try and set up in a sim. There's no doubt about it. It's a real different machine. So here we are. Let's just soak in this livery just for a bit. So we've got a little emoji. That's the second emoji ever to appear on the channel, but it made it onto this one. It's obviously GSIMZ, which is the registration. So AC455 very kindly wrote, here's the 100k on this side, and the other one I think says congrats on 50k. So as I point out, I didn't make this livery. Or you think I'm writing congratulations to myself. This was done by our moderator and long-term viewer, AC455. But it's lovely, nice use of the colours, and yeah, like I say, a great bit of fun to celebrate the milestone. We do have a lot of traffic around. There's a lot of Air 2000s sitting in this airport. I don't understand. I've got loads of liveries for the A32NX, but Microsoft Flight Simulator seems to want to always load that one, unless it's loading the default A3. No, it can't be, because it's got the 50k livery just there. I don't know. Yeah, so we've obviously painted up the whole fleet in this special one-off livery. It should have been quite expensive, but you know, we don't spare any expense here at Manta, obviously. So we're up at the sort of round part of Paris Charles de Gaulle. It's this strange terminal. I've always wanted to fly from here, so I thought it'd be good fun to load it in. It is. I think this is one of the included ones in Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is why it looks pretty good, really, pretty accurate. Right, as Chick points there, poor fellows on the next stand were not in time to get the celebratory delivery. No, so there's some that aren't and some did, because I think we've got we've got a few different liveries floating around. Right, jumping into the chat, I'm already way behind, so I do apologise. Statues in Corfu, hello to you. Blueberry King on Twitch, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. I hope you're doing very well. John Padfield, good evening to you. Thanks for coming along. Piano Learner as well. Great to have you all here. Lauren V2500, thanks for coming to join us and moderate. And yeah, I do like livery. Mr. Dylan FM, good to see you as well. Window Seat, hope you're doing well. It's been a while, Window Seat. Window Seat is our resident Airbus engineer, so great to have you here. I hope you're doing very well with all your endless work. I assume things are very busy at the moment, engineering on Airbus aircraft, no doubt, with the way things are going, which is good news. And presumably quite a lot to be brought out of maintenance or storage. So Concorde is now indeed, Pavel. Good to see you, Pavel. And yeah, it's on the way. Kai says, don't worry, my first flight in the Concorde, I took off and then I slammed into the North Atlantic Ocean 20 seconds later after my attempt to use the INS. Yeah. So I wish I made it to the Atlantic Ocean. That would have been a more successful flight. I basically didn't set the trim at all right for takeoff, and it was amazing how hard it was. It rotated at V1. The nose just came off the ground, and I couldn't even keep it on the ground. Yeah, quite impressive. But yeah, right. JLast says, it is a more detailed airport in Microsoft Flight Simulator, but these small island boarding lounges are currently being connected to and from more of a concourse, so it's not that accurate anymore. Oh, I see, they're changing it, right. Oh, Marquez, you'll have to ask window seat. Right. Let us jump into the cockpit, I think. And thanks for those follows there, 40 Gumball, Olgie, and Melon. I do struggle with Twitch usernames. So, first of all, I'm just going to change that. Finally, the little toolbar's gone from the top. I'm so happy about that. It makes such a difference when you're trying to make videos in Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's such a relief. Oh, there you go. A good view of the the celebratory tail. I think we'll go for... Yeah, I think we'll go for that for a wing view today. And here we are on the flight deck. Nothing too surprising. I've got all my cables tangled up. There we go. That's better. Yeah, nothing too surprising here. It is loaded up with the flight. The flight's on Discord if you're interested in flying along. I've got 150 passengers. I just thought 50 was a nice nice round number, which we've already boarded. Gives us a zero fuel weight of 61.2 tons. So we are pretty heavy, taking off at 70 tons for this flight. In fact, let me check that. So 61.2. We'll say this is a 66 ton landing airplane, actually. So we need to burn 4 tons. But I suspect we're not going to. I do have a flight plan. Reckons we'll burn 3.3. So we're going to actually have to lower that fuel a bit, or we'll be over our maximum landing weight. So let's drop the fuel by a little bit. So that's 8.1 tons, which is more than we need. We need 6.2. So let's drop it to, well, let's do 6.5, I think, just to account for some discrepancies in the, where's the fuel page? Fuel. Just to account for some discrepancies in the way SimBrief loads up. 6.2, so I said 6.5, didn't I? Already forgot that. Oh, we're not going with 6. There we go, we'll do 6476. That should be enough, and we will have with that an alternate of Barcelona and 15 minutes contingency, so that's plenty of fuel really. It's pretty nice weather all round. Good. We are at live weather but not live time, because otherwise we'll get there in the pitch black, which I didn't really want to do. Good. So this isn't quite set up. These should be on, but let's load up the MCDU. So aircraft status still doesn't show us. Oh, it does show us the dates. They're out of date, so ignore that, but they should be in date. And we'll do our init request as we load up. Victor Tango, good to see you. Thanks for coming and moderating. Lauren V needed 114.7 in the 340. Yeah, it is quite a difference, isn't it, going back to these 320 style numbers. So cost next 28. I'm actually going to cruise at 370, so I'm just going to type that in. Oh, no, didn't like that. Yeah, thank you. 370. And there it is. And Manta 293, just the next one sequentially from where we were. Paris to Palma, alternate of Barcelona, LEBL. That's diff. Secondary doesn't work. Radnav, we're going to auto tune. Init B, magic of fly-by-wire is so easy, and we're going with 6.5 block fuel. In it goes. So next is to finish up the flight plan ready before we can do the performance. We need to know which runway we're going from. Now, you all know my thoughts on airport charts and the number of them. If you look here, let me just make it a bit bigger for you guys because you won't see it otherwise. It's ridiculous. There are so many charts. Look at this. It goes on forever. These are special ones for heavy aircraft. Here's all the briefing pages. So, you know, you're expected to read all of this. There's basically no excuse. So if one of these things, somewhere in one of these, there could be a little line that says, there you go, look at that, your exit point. So that's where they expect you to prepare to exit and so on when using high intensity runway ops. And that's hidden on page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, page 8, you know, and there's one line. So you do have to go digging around sometimes, and I think it's just too much information there, but there we go. And they're doing a lot of work at JustFlight as well, so Lauren V. Okay, so it does sound like it's quite busy. The Real Stew, thanks for coming along on Twitch. And the Real Stew says, just watch the approach chart video, really, really useful. That's great. Glad to hear it. Thanks so much, Real Stew. I'm glad you came along and glad you enjoyed it. Aviation Forever, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Right. So anyway, what we need to work out is which runway are we departing from. So I don't think there's any controller online here. There isn't. So let's grab a weather. Normally, one of the first things I do these days when I sit in an airplane is print out the weather. And then, or the ATIS. I say weather, I mean ATIS, but there won't be any ATIS today. The reason is I want to know which runways to use before I start fiddling around with the flight plan. Right, so hopefully that's on the way. Receive messages, meet up. There we go, print, and we'll just choose our runway. But we're on the north side of Charles de Gaulle. Ha! Brilliant, wind is southerly. I'm going to imagine they're on westerlies. That's more normal for Paris. And we will depart from the north side runways, which is going to be therefore, I think we actually had a pretty good chance. Because so just to show you where we're parked, for those of you not familiar, we're not down there. We are parked up here, around this X-ray area. So I want to take off runway 27 left is going to be the most convenient. Head out and south. That should work for us. So we need a departure from 27 left that goes out via... let me just check which point I'm looking for. Goes out via... Iriksu. So looking for Iriksu now. Iriksu. Oh dear. There it is. It says the 5 Zulu. Am I going to find out that's for jets above flight level 195? That's fine. So that would work, wouldn't it? There's also the 5 Alpha 5 Bravo. That's from the south runway. There's the 5 Golf. So those are from the easterlies and the easterlies. Okay, so there's only one choice. That's nice. It's going to be this one. Great. So that makes it the Iriksu. You've got to get the right... well, basically, you have to get the right runway here, but you can see they're basically the same. We're going to take, let's take, oh, there's a 5 Alpha 5 Delta. We want to finish at Iriksu. No, that's fine. They're both 5 Alpha 5 Delta. Which airway are we taking? This must be so tedious to watch. I do apologise. We're taking up in number 860, so we're taking number 2. So we want the Iriksu. Oh, well, obviously they're both the same. Right, so the 5 Delta, it looks like. I'm assuming the difference is the runway. Not very clear though. Which one is which? That is confusing. Oh well, we won't stress too much. So, now I've got to remember which runway I wanted. We want 27 lefts. So many runways. I mean, well, yeah, there are plenty of runways in Paris. 27 lefts. Iriksu, and we agreed on the Alpha. Let's do Alpha. Let it load in. Thanks, good old Red Ted, for hosting us. And thanks to Real Stew for following. And 40 Gumball, if I didn't say so. There it is, 5 Alpha, insert. Now we're going to check it connects up. So, usual plan, zoom in, straight ahead. Papa Golf 271, 272, 280. Yeah, and then south down to Rambouillet. I don't know that VMR. It's not a normal route for me to fly, as you can imagine, from Paris Charles de Gaulle. There we go, and south, and then it docks find the Iriksu. From Iriksu, we're going to AirTalk. So if I clear that disconnect, I'm hoping we'll get a green line. There it is, and it's not asking me to insert it on the ground. That's an option. Some airlines will have it where you still have to insert it even if you modify it on the ground. And along the route we go. Thanks, Carlo, for the follow. And south we go. Climate's 370, as we said. And then we're going to put in an arrival at some point. But we'll do that in the air once I've worked it out. That's good. So we have a runway. So now we can do our performance. Let's just actually print out that weather. I should have done that already. So back to AOC. Received. Oh, that's new. I haven't seen that before. That's quite neat. So I don't have to rip it off. It just appears there. Nice. Good. Well, it'll definitely be a flap 1 takeoff from here. Thanks, Shadow, for the follow. Flap 1 and flex really doesn't matter. I'm sure 69 will be fine out of Paris. And we'll put the speeds in. Pretty good speeds. Pretty heavy takeoff weight. Transition altitude. Got that off our SID chart. 5,000 feet. That's written up there, hidden away in tiny writing. And you'll see that they cleared level 120. Initial climb flight level 120. There's no stop altitudes in the meantime. 5,000 feet. And 120. Good. So the speeds are loaded in. That's looking good. We got 135, 140 climb now, 152, 12,000. We'll make that a flight level when we're underway. That's starting to come together. Let's get the APU up and running. Passengers will be demanding some air. They are all on already. Still off and on. There we go. Seatbelts on. Now we have our 6.5 tons of fuel. All in the right place. 5, 6 and a bit. Yep, just about. Just about. Here comes the APU. Victor Tango is flying the A340 at Across the Pond event on Saturday with Andy H1302 as the PM. Excellent. That should be good fun. That should be really good fun. Don't worry. When I was trying to fly Concorde, I was definitely thinking, why didn't I just say I'd do a long haul flight in the 340? There we go. Thanks, Vincent. Vincent has the magical piece of information from all those charts. The departure instructions say the differences between A and D are the takeoff direction and use at Orly. There you go. You see, yeah, it's so complicated. These ones. Simultaneous departures. Yeah, so Paris Charles de Gaulle is a good one. You can end up taking off and have your BO taking off from these runways, someone taking off from this runway, and you'll be lifting off at the same time. It's quite good fun. So you end up in a bit of a performance race. Smaller, short-haul aircraft tend to do better out of this area. Even better if you're in a turboprop or something small and regional, because you'll climb away much quicker. And then by the time you're at 10,000 feet, the heavy long haulers are sort of, or the jets certainly, are starting to disappear. And then as you get higher, the long haulers disappear off in front of you. But we get to feel big for a few moments after takeoff there. See you in a bit, Victor Tango. John Hadfield's accepted a challenge to land Falcon in Gibraltar. Good luck with that. Right. Good. Well, I think that's all done. This is a very chilled out flight today, by the way, everyone. This is just to go and have a look at the new Palma scenery. I haven't really looked around it much, just to take the thumbnail, and I wanted to play around in this. Something I will do, actually, because it's here now, is we have fixed info. So if we go flight plan, one left, and now the fixed info page works, which is great. And I've done a video for this. It's coming out soon. But for now, we could put on here something useful. So what could we use? 25 miles around the airport reference point. MSA's 3,200 feet. So if I put in Charles de Gaulle, LFPG, put it in there, and then do 25 radius, I'll get a blue ring. Oh, that's hurting my frames. There we go. There it is. So now I know the MSA is 3,200 feet until I get outside of there, and then it'll be according to my flight plan. So that can be useful, especially if you return back in. The Psycho says, hey, I recently watched your ILS video and have a ton of them on my watch later list. First time in the stream too now. Thanks for the great explanations. You're very welcome. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for saying so, and I'm glad you've been enjoying them. I don't know if the hold works. But we might try it on the way in, unless someone else knows. Yeah, the live time does look nice. It's just going to be a problem for later on. So just to show everyone, it's actually, yeah, it's really lovely. So we could start like this. Why don't we start like this, and then we'll just rewind a bit mid-flight. We do that a lot. There's no shame in that, I don't think. Right. I'll tell you what I have forgotten. Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I'll be back in just a moment. Sorry about that. Right, we're back. So, yeah, I just had to go and get my my checklist. Otherwise, we're going to be a little bit stuck as I try and make it up. Right, so fuels on boards. Passenger on. Let's get the APU bleed on. Let's get rid of the ground power. Otherwise, the overhead panel is set. So what we're looking for really is cockpit preparation completed before we ask for the checklist. We're not supposed to do things as part of the checklist. If you do, you do. It's not the end of the world, but the idea is that everything should pretty much be done. So let's get that on perf, which will be normal. And time to really start closing up, although you can do the before start checklist obviously without the front door closed, but you can only do it down to the line. So let's get rid of passengers. It's all working nicely. Yeah, Adam Cooper, don't worry, I already have the brew. Don't think hold is there yet, it's just Nash. Okay. Thanks very much, Mr. Martini. Really appreciate it. Ed Hassan, good to see you. Ed can't join us live tonight, but just wanted to drop in and wish us a good flight. Thanks very much, Ed. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming along. This is a fictional airline, Aviation Forever, or R1 certainly is. I have been told I got an angry comment on YouTube. Well, I say angry. A comment on YouTube who was not impressed because there's a real one out there apparently. So that's this is not associated with or related to that airline. I certainly wouldn't have intended to do that. This is entirely made up for us. Good. Let's get that tug connected. And now you're going to be very upset with me because what I haven't done is sort out the that add-on pushback. I'm terrible for this. There's so many things. I end up, you wouldn't believe how many bits of software I'm constantly updating on the simulators for each video. The Hawk gets an update, and then we've got the new La Palma and so on. And it's amazing that I annoyingly then forget to do the other things. That's my fault. I'm not blaming anyone else, but I should really get it sorted. So we should have that pushback thing installed. It does sound very good. Anyway, cockpit prep is completed for both of us. Gear pins and covers are removed. Signs are on and auto. ADIs are all in nav. Fuel quantity, we have 6,400 kilograms and balanced. Takeoff data is set. Barrow ref is set to 1012. That's down to the line. We're going to imagine we have push and start clearance. There's no air traffic, so I'd put the beacon on. I would set the transponder to auto. Make sure it's got that one on as well. And I'm going to say windows and doors are closed. Beacon is on. Mobile phones are off. Thrust levers are at idle. Parking brake is set. So that is the before start checklist complete. Let's just check there's no controller here because somebody might have appeared. It's always embarrassing when that happens. No, there's no one at all. So we're on 1228. I think I've got VPilot fixed.
Traffic, Alpha 5 and 6 from X4, pushing starting on to 10 for 127 West. Charles to go traffic.
Charles to go traffic, Manta 293, X-ray pushing back onto Alpha. Now, goodness knows if that's acceptable. But anyway, we're going to release the parking brake. I don't know where they'd push back from this stand. And we're going to go backwards. I think that's our colleague just on the left. Oh no, we're not going to go... Yeah, we are going to go onto Alpha.
There you go, traffic. Alpine 46 Mike Echo, pushing back from gate Delta 18.
Right. The real Manta Air is a twin otter operated in the Maldives. Established in 1952, long before they dreamt us as Lauren exactly. Let's get the engines going. I think it's going to be 2 engines today. I can't see the advantage. We'll do single engine taxi into the Palma just because it's such Palma de Mallorca, just because it's such a big airport, busy airport as well. So we're going to start with engine 2. That goes to ignition. Got pressure. Number 2.
Air France 524, Paris traffic, radio check please.
5 by 5.
Thank you, sir, you too.
Mic muted. Well done. I was just busy saying how this is going to be a normal sector, just like the old days of the channel. We've muted the mic in the old days of the channel as well. But yeah, so this is something I've said before. The audio is just the best in the A32NX. It's really very good, and it's up to the level of any payware. Hopefully you guys can hear a bit of it. But yeah, engine 2 done. Do engine 1 nearly there. Yep, you heard the barking dogs. Excellent. And yeah, the PTU noise. They added it into a lot of simulators because us simmers love it, but you can't hear it on the flight deck, as we all know now. It doesn't get through to the flight deck. It's very loud over the wings because that's where the power transfer unit is. That is available. Norm. Off. Reset the rudder trim. That's the one. And our CG today, I think it's pretty standard. 23.6 is the zero fuel weight. Gross weight is also 23.6. They never actually line up perfectly with each other. Oh, maybe there is maybe there is one weight where they would actually. So I shouldn't say that. Never, unless I'm very sure. But there we go. Right, after that checklist, anti-ice is not required. Still a lovely day. Europe's getting a very nice autumn at the moment, isn't it? ECAM status is checked, which all we're looking for is a status message down there. Pitch trim is set to 23.6. Rudder trim is at 0. That's the after that checklist complete. And to 293 Charles de Gaulle traffic, taxiing at Alpha for runway 27 left. So Paris says 27 left, and then the southerly runways are 26 left. It's quite strange. They're all pointing the same way, but it's just to differentiate them. So we're on Alpha. So this is actually a one-way system. So we'd have to go round Alpha all the way, but we're not going to manage that. I don't know what they would do. I assume we'd have to push back the other way actually. So what I'm going to do is cheat, and we'll go right up Delta Alpha, and then you can see we should take this arrow here. Such a confusing airport with the taxiways, but we don't want to be on Bravo. Bravo's sort of the wrong way, so we're going to head out and go along here. I think we won't go full length. We'll actually go Quebec 4. So we should really put in that shift into the performance calculator. In fact, let's do that, because it does work in the A32NX. Oh, no, it doesn't work. I'm thinking of something else. No, it works in the Toliss. No, fine. It'll be fine either way for this length of runway. So taxi flight's on. Clear on the left, clear on the right. Yeah, our colleague figured out the right way to push back. That's the brakes released. And away we go. Now, we can go left. We'll easily make that turn. We've always talked about how manoeuvrable these airplanes are. We are very heavy though. So the trick here, get it moving forwards, and then don't do a brake check or anything just yet. Just go full lock. Oh, that's a bit too much thrust. But yeah, look at that. Doesn't even come close. They are so manoeuvrable. Some of the stands I've parked on, and then you're told by the ground crew it's a self-taxi out, and you wouldn't believe it's possible. But yeah, it's very good. You've just got to be careful not to grind to a halt whilst you're turning.
Charles, you got traffic there for 556, taxi runway 27 left via Quebec.
So I don't think I reset that clock. Actually, good point. We're talking about the clock in the chat. So yeah, we should time for it's actually the Neos don't have a 5-minute warm-up. It's 5-minute warm-up on the older engines. This one has a 3-minute warm-up in this case. It's always 3 minutes, even from cold, which is quite something really. So imagine you can just start it for 3 minutes from really pretty cold, and then just take off. It's mad really, but there you go. That's the limits. Right, we can do our flight controls as we trundle forward very slowly. Full up, full down, neutral, full left, full right, neutral, full right rudder. Still can't assign it separately. Full left rudder, neutral. We're going to follow our colleague up there because we are going around Alpha the wrong way, but that's fine. We'll take Bravo Delta, Quebec Delta, Quebec. Seems a pretty practical way to get out of here. There is indeed a tiller on the real plane, the real Stu. And the next plane you can assign it separately, but I don't think that's an option yet in Microsoft Flight Simulator. 12 knots for the turn, ever so slightly fast. So just bring it down a little bit because it will be Problem with 12 knots is it's okay in a dry taxiway in a wide turn like this, but the airplane will be accelerating the whole time. So if you've got cabin crew standing up at the back, that's not going to go down very well. ASDF QWERTY, thanks for your follow, and Sierra Golf and Silver Cap. Right, round we go here. Plenty of ways to get it wrong in Paris. You'll notice as well the 50k special mugs that AC455 included for us, which is very nice. Oh, they're going a different way. Love the terminal at night with the red lights. Oh, I'm glad we did jump back into it in the evening. So we'll rewind the time shortly. There's all the traffic in front of us. So we've done the flight controls. We've done those. That can go to TARA. Oh, this can go to auto on, but it is in op, as you can see. Let's not do that. That's because I was pressing the mouse, so it doesn't allow you to input while you do that. So don't do that.
524 pushing back pad Alpha 4.
There we go. Nothing to see there. Right. Yeah, good. That's to TARA. Max there. Takeoff config there. This is where a nose wheel steering cheddar would be so useful. Now, why wouldn't it take max? There it is. Oh, it's not happy with the predicted wind shear. Nope, there we go. Let's actually look forwards for 2 seconds, shall we? And we might get the airplane going in a straight line. There it is. And cabin. Right. We'll be doing that at the apron next time. Yeah, I like the in-op sticker. It's quite good. Right, what's going on? There's some... seems to be some elevation issues. That is quite a drop to have. But, oh yeah, there it is. Little ramp. Good. All right, I thought the brakes were applying.
The aircraft on Quebec 4, what kind of aircraft are you?
Quebec 4. So there's an aircraft ahead of us. We're following Quebec, and we're going to go all the way to the end, left at Quebec 4. Thanks, the amazing pilot. Really appreciate it. Right, before takeoff checks. Before we do that, we'll just run through a little brief, make sure this is all set up. So 27 left, going straight ahead, then making a left turn south. We're going to do that with the packs on, flap 1 takeoff with flexing 69. Yeah, you can see the brakes. That is frustrating, disconnecting there, the auto brakes. We're going to get to 12,000 feet, becoming a flight level, so we'll set standard once we're in the air. Other than that, nothing much to say. We are overweight if we wanted to immediately return, but not very. Good. Let's put that back, and we'll go with before takeoff checklist. Flight controls are checked, flight instruments checked, briefing confirmed, flaps config 1 percef green and config 1 blue. FMA takeoff data, we've got 135, 140, climb that blue, 152, 12,000, flex 69. Transponder is set, and eco memo takeoff. No blue-ish. It seems to me my TCA is struggling just a little bit at the moment with that. Sobo's LFPG has a lot of elevation problems, I see. Yeah, we're starting to feel a bit of that. Glitchfinder, that's sorry to hear about the kidney stones. That's not much fun, but yeah, thanks for coming along. So this is Quebec 3. We're going for the next one. Can't ever trust the taxiways fully at relatively default airports. What happens if you bring the thrust levers back to climb below thrust reduction altitude? The amazing... sorry, who asked that? Rob on Twitch. So if you bring them back early, you'll just lose the thrust, and it will... I think it will flash at you, thrust levers not set, because it will expect you to have them at the takeoff or flex gate. That would be my guess. It's not something you want to try, really, because that low down stage is very critical, and if you have an engine failure and you don't have takeoff thrust set, you could find yourself in trouble quite easily. Oh, and now we're getting the old illegal operation on VATSIM, and I don't understand why. It was working fine. I had it running for 40 minutes before to make sure we didn't get into trouble with that. Yeah, so you see now, if I'm dragging the view, which is what I was doing to do the MCDU, it stops your input. That is a little bit frustrating. So there you go. Now I'm moving the rudder pedals, but because I'm dragging the view. Right. Yeah, oh well. Yeah, this is the default one. So there are a few glitches with that. Ray 3 Burn, we're going to find out how the NX is flying now. But it's got nice feature, the fixed info feature. I've got a video coming on that very soon. Very useful. We use it all the time. Oh, here's a ramp. The Amazing Pilot. I'm glad you like the 340 video, and yeah, enjoy it when it comes. Yeah, airplanes are incredibly sensitive to any sort of ground elevation changes. Right, so we're down to the line. Next is below the line. We'll let our colleague take off over here. Avia Byron, if there's no one on VATSIM to give you a squawk, I just usually squawk 2000. Not sure what the official rule is. You always feel every bump while taxiing. Yeah, absolutely. John says, never had turbulence on the ground before. It's possible. On a windy day, if you are sat at the front or back of even an A320, you'll feel the really strong wind when you're across it. You can feel it shaking. Ian Michael John.
566 Heavy, Christmas, aircraft 566, no takeoff 527 left, Charles de Gaulle.
Indeed, Charles de Gaulle is a bit of a challenging one. I don't blame you. I like flying. Most pilots like flying into smaller airports because they are just easier to sort of deal with less traffic and so on. Charles de Gaulle traffic, Manta 293, lining up, taking off, 27 left. Right, there goes our colleague. No time to waste. Lights on, strobe on, nose light on. Below line, cabin is secure for takeoff. Engine mode selector is to norm. TCAS TR8 packs are both on. That's the before takeoff jet is complete. It's something to do with, there's something interacting between my parking brake and the auto brake. Right, there we go. I promise I'd had the I had my little parking brake handle off. These yellow lines aren't for lining up, they're actually for vacating. So it's your choice how you want to do it. Oh, no, too much brake. Yeah, so if we were to line up just following that wouldn't really be right. We're mainly expected to line up 90 degrees because you eat into your runway. Now, it's a bit silly to wear out the nose gear and so on at a big airport or a massive runway like this, but it's misleading to think that you can follow that yellow line and still have all the takeoff performance. You'd actually be slightly out if you were to do that. Right, we've already said we're taking off. I think our colleague's got far enough ahead. So let's go to La Palma. We're going to start the clock. 50%. Brakes released. Here we go. Man, Flex 69, SRS. Order thrust is armed in blue. Let's hope that max auto brake stays where it is. Doesn't engage.
Alpine 46 Mike Echo lining up and waiting at runway 27 left.
The sound effects are just perfect in this. Side 60 neutral at 100 knots. As you can see, pretty high speeds. Crosswind from the left, trying to swing the nose to the left. V1, rotate. Nose wheel off, release that rudder. Positive climb, gear up, nav. Rotate law as well in the A32NX is excellently done, really nice. And unusual actually, it's not very often we see a rotate law. Beautiful view of Paris. We'll see a bit more. This is a great departure to fly because we're going to go straight past Paris over our left shoulder, really, which is ideal. That wind picked up, 25 knots from the left now. Bit of turbulence there, as you'd expect on a windy day. Thrust, climb, order thrusts. Beautiful. Accelerating, for once we're with flap 1. Autopilot 1 is in. That will be... Is that Orly? I'm not very familiar with Paris. I've probably embarrassed myself there. No, all he's further away. That's LFPB. The Bourget, thanks very much. There we go. Yeah, that's the Paris Air Show. Flaps to 0. Disarm the ground spoilers. And we will go to those gear lights. After takeoff climb checklist. Landing gear is up. Flaps retracted. Packs on. Right, and there's standard. Out blue 120. We are cleared straight up to 120 on this departure. So that is Barra Ref standard set. After takeoff, checklist complete. I am indeed looking forward to the A32NX A380. Should be absolutely fantastic. Let's swap over. See Paris. For this flight, indeed, I'm using the Thrustmaster Airbus side stick. Hannah says, first time catching your stream live. Love your tutorial videos. You're an excellent teacher. That's very kind. Thanks very much. Glad you've enjoyed them. Thanks for coming along to the stream today. For entering the perf into the MCDU, great question, Seawiz. They're asking when it's gusty, would you enter the gust into the MCDU? No, you'd enter the base wind, not the gusts. Because the gusts you want Ground Speed Mini to take account of. So if you watch my Ground Speed Mini tutorial on YouTube, it is in X-Plane, but it's still relevant, and it will explain why. Indeed, there is an A32NX A380. Yeah, or a fly-by-wire A380. I don't know what they're going to call it. A380X? A38X? Right, left turn. We're above the MSA, which is now way below us at 3,200 feet. Look at that. They do such a good job in this sim. I haven't fiddled with the loading distances and so on. I know that there's a few. And there's that sunrise, always fun. But you can see why this departure goes straight ahead to avoid flying you low over the city. This is where this job's such a joy. So they've updated the night lighting, people are saying. Have they? I didn't think it looked bad before, but I did always think X-Plane had a really nice night lighting. There's the Eiffel Tower. We found it. I was looking for it earlier. Got to see it. It usually sparkles. They put so many lights in it. It does sparkle every now and then. Alright, 10,000 feet, lowering the nose. Let's get the landing lights off. I'm going to go to airport. Well, we already did that. To get nosy about which airport we're flying by. And we can clear the fixed info because we're not using it anymore. We're above that MSA. See that blue circle goes away. And away we go. Right, climbing up to 370. No point hanging around at 120. We did well on the fuel there, so we've burnt 640. So no fuel leak, but yeah, we did alright. We didn't take too much on the taxi out, which is good. So there is a new update in update 6. I see. Well, it does look lovely. I can't say anything otherwise. I'm quite impressed the Eiffel Tower was loading actually. There it is. Yeah, unmistakable. Very nice. Mousechoke Simulation says we took off with the dome light on. Yeah, we did. So, bit of trivia for you guys. Most pilots on the Airbus at night are going to take off with the dome light, not at bright, but dim. Now, in this sort of condition, you could, yeah, if you had it on bright, you had it on bright. I mean, you're allowed to take off with it wherever you want it. I would try and have it dim normally. The reason I put it to bright is when I'm streaming, I always put it to bright so that the panels just light up a bit better for you guys. But we can do. Let's turn these up. That would definitely help, wouldn't it? It's because I started in broad daylight. But there we go. Yeah, so I tend to have it on bright. The dome light is supposed to be set to dim for takeoff, or certainly most people would do that, because if you have a major electrical fault, the right-hand dome light is the only one that's going to stay lit. So by having that already set to dim, you'll have it in the event of say you have a massive loss of electrics on takeoff and you reject the takeoff. Now, not to say you should, but maybe you do. For example, a low-speed reject takeoff. You come grinding to a halt and it's pitch black because you've had a major electrical problem, because you've lost the integral lighting and you've lost the dome lighting because you didn't turn it on. So if you leave it on dim for takeoff, it's sitting there. Having said that, we don't do the same thing for landing, so I don't know why it has to be done for takeoff, but it's a common thing. So yeah, it's quite normal for Airbus pilots to take off with it at dim, but land with it off. Just trivia. This is indeed fly-by-wire. Angry. You can move freely around the cockpit using I just use the translate keys, so that's the arrows for me. There we go. I've been meaning to do a right-hand seat flight in the Toliss, actually. Look at that, even the coffee cup top reflects. It's great. 50k shiny mug. Lovely. Go airport over here. Is the X-Plane 11 night lighting more realistic? In some ways, I think it was before. Still getting those illegal operation complaints from SimConnect, but there we go. Yeah, in some ways, previously it was. And I've talked about it before. The Microsoft Flight Simulator night lighting was a little bit aggressive. So what you had was the street lights and so on all looked a bit too strong because of the texture on the ground. So we'll see what it... Well, we won't see on this stream because I'm going to change it shortly. But I don't know, it looks very nice at dusk. But pure night lighting in X-Plane was superb. It really captured it nicely. But this is a perfect dusk sort of thing. But yeah, the streetlights aren't very bright from the air. You get a sense, but you don't usually see individual dots. Well, do you? I don't know. I think we're getting down to quite small details here. Really, they're all just so good these days. Thanks for the follow, Blur. Now, I don't know if anyone knows the user for prawns, but they have tipped us very generously in between streams. Actually, they tipped £40 very kindly, and they have one of our mugs as well. So I really do need to thank them a lot, but I don't know. I haven't seen them in the chat for a while, but they tipped that in between streams, so I must thank them very much for being very kind. Right, anyway, seatbelts can definitely come off. We'll get to the cruise and then we'll sort out the lighting as we see fit. No need to time anymore, all good. The landmarks can load something like 10 further than anything else, so all the autogen can unload in your seat at the tower. Very good, that would make sense. Thank you, Azaveda, for the follow. Yeah, agreed, Mr. Martini. No, thanks for the tip. Whoever, I've totally forgotten who recommended that we do the sunset takeoff. This is the experimental version. I am indeed excited for the fly-by-wire A380. Thanks, John Padfield. Yeah, 8455, put the effort in on that. Yeah, so X-Plane 11 does nice car lighting at night, so you get little dots sort of cruising around, which I don't think you do in... Certainly it's not as noticeable in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Do you get it lower down? Goodness me, I get so confused when I try and remember all these details. Loom says, very excited for the DFD A350. I'm not sure I know that one. You get cars lower down, looks great. Okay, so yeah, it needs to be a bit lower for that. Gimdi Live, welcome from Norway. Flight's been going well. Minor excursion in the taxi, but we'll not think too hard about that. This is looking great. Yeah, this is such a good mod. We're so lucky this was the one they chose to pick up at the start. Yeah, so Lawrence Draper, I agree. Sim night effects never feel dark enough for me compared to real life, which is basically pitch black. So that's the thing that I suppose I'm getting at with saying that the X-Plane one's quite good, is that it's a little bit darker, which is just true. It's amazing how hard it is to see things at night in an airplane, especially airports. They're the hardest thing to find. We can see our colleague up ahead. And yeah, that's interesting. I never tried the Project Megapack A330, but it sounds like they've ceased work on it for now. I've been meaning to try the A330 NEO, but I heard there's a few bugs with it, or with the handling maybe. But again, can't complain for a freeware project, definitely not. Yeah, the shadow of the Earth. I mean, this is... When I talk about night lighting, I'm not trying to have a go at Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's stunning. We all know that. And this in particular is perfect. So that's the Earth shadow. And I don't know how they got that to work so well. I mean, it's amazing. This is exactly what it would look like. You get this sudden dark area appearing. And then before you know it, you're sat in the dark. But not us. Get ready. Cover your eyes, everybody. It's happening. Ouch. That would have hurt. Still a lovely day over Europe, though. Autopilot was really glitchy, but it was good for freeware. There you go. Thanks, GGS. John Padford says, I think X-Plane nails the night lighting, having flown in circles for 20 minutes in my PA-28 hunting for the airport. Yeah, it's... When I first flew up, I've said this many times, but when I first took off and flew around at night, I couldn't believe it. When I went to try and find the airport, you would just assume it's like this blinding set of bright lights showing the runway, but it really isn't. They are hidden away. The real Stu, yes, your type rating will cover the 3, 18, 19, 20 and 21. Not the heavies, but it will cover 18, 19, 20, 21 and the Neo variants with a little bit of extra training, and I mean very little. You just need to read a PDF basically. Waffle, I've got guides on charts indeed on the channel. Videos on SIDS, stars, RLS charts. I think that's all at the moment. Ambience ruined indeed. It's 30,000 feet. Still roaring up. 310. No, sorry, 290 knots at 1100 feet per minute. Not bad. Not bad at all. 24 degrees, just a little bit hot in the cabin. Fuel wise, we burnt 1.4 pretty much, added on to 5.1 pretty much, 6.5. That's where we started. How's it looking about? Yeah, so this isn't very convinced about our fuel on arrival. I didn't load in the wind. So it reckons 1.5, 0.6. Yeah. That's possibly because he's got a disconnect in it. Kim, the open climb and climb are pretty much the same unless there's a restriction. So if there was a flight level restriction at AirTalk, say it said flight level 300 in the flight management system, and it didn't want to be above or below, it wanted to be at 300, then if I was in managed climb, it would have leveled off there and it would have gone magenta 300 blue. Sorry, 300 magenta over here. But we're in open climb. Difference between open climb and this, nothing, because this is just climb thrust and our computed climb speed. So if I was to pull, open climb, but it's not going to change. In real life, how far out can you identify runway lights? Quite far out if you're lined up with the runway. So you can fly overhead an airport and you won't see the runway until you just pass in line with it, even from quite high up. So if you're pointing straight in at an airport on an approach, you could probably see the lights from 20 miles, I'd guess, if the weather was good. Maybe even a bit more, it just depends on the weather really, but that's only when you're lined up. When you're 10 degrees off the centre line, you probably won't see them at all. It's amazing. You're welcome, Kim. Yeah, exactly, Roy. Open climbing ignores the out restrictions. Yeah. Checkpoint says, as there is an active volcano, and good to see you, Checkpoint, by the way. As there is an active volcano in La Palma, would you take extra precautions in your briefing? Yeah, so you'd have definitely read the NOTAMs. I'm sure the company would have said something. I mean, you know, we have Mount Etna running quite regularly. Let me check see if there's any active NOTAMs actually. Obviously in real life we would read all this stuff before we even get to work. Normally I take a few liberties when I'm streaming, I must confess, just to set up all the streaming side of things. Let's have a look. Charles de Gaulle has not too many NOTAMs. Right. No, they're withdrawing the DME. No, nothing too shocking. So if they don't think it's affecting the approach, then there's not much to say about it really. It's obviously the risk with volcanoes is the sort of ash they put out, but they're drawn onto significant weather charts if there is an ash concern. And I think SimBrief does give us significant weather charts. Let me scroll all the way through to the end. But yeah, so if you thought there was a risk of them shutting the airport, you'd certainly take extra fuel. I'd have fuel for an alternate that doesn't have a volcano nearby, and I'd have fuel to get around the ash cloud, i.e. where we think it's going to be. You don't want to get stuck. Let's say you head to Palma, it closes for the volcano, and then you can't get back to your alternate because of the ash cloud. So I'd want extra fuel to get past that. I think for now it seems pretty tame, because they are, like I say, they are shown on. There's a hilarious little volcano logo which they usually sits on Mount Etna. Yeah, is that the wrong Palma? Is Glue saying so? That's going to be. Are we talking about not the Balearic Islands? Yeah, so Chip was talking about La Palma, which will be the Canary Islands, which would make more sense. Don't worry, I didn't spot that difference. Four Prawns, good to see you. Four Prawns, thanks so much for your very kind donation that I got in between the streams. Really appreciate it. It's incredibly generous of you, and thanks so much for being so kind. And I'm glad you've been enjoying the streams and using your big television for the streams. Four Prawn says, great streams and videos. I'm currently multitasking with an A340-600 from Heathrow to JFK, but after the takeoff some of the passengers have asked to be dropped off in Ireland. Very nice. Have fun with that, and thanks for coming along, and again thanks for supporting the channel, really appreciate it. Yeah, so Lauren V's explained it quite well. We're going to the Balearic Island of Mallorca, so we're going to Palma de Mallorca is the airport. The town next to it is Las Palmas. La Palma is a Canary Island, which is a whole island on its own. It is confusing. I don't blame anyone, because it took me ages to get my head around it, and I promise you, when I set up this stream, I checked and double checked and then checked a third time which one I was definitely meant to write down, and the chance of getting the name wrong was so high. Because it's easy to call this airport La Palma, because that's the town it's in, but yeah. Well, on the taxiing, we only use the taxi and turn off lights. When you turn off the turn off lights and landing lights, so it's quite common to use the turn off lights while taxiing. Not everyone does, but they do point out the side, which is useful on the Airbus, because the taxi light doesn't turn as you turn. There's our last 1,000 feet to go. So in terms of lights, I do a video on lights, which it's up on the channel and explains everything about the lights, all of them, and what we do with all of them. But effectively, landing lights will be on as you enter the runway take off and climb to 10,000 feet. Some airlines now will get rid of them quicker than that because they cause a bit of drag. And they'll be on approach from any time after 10,000 feet. Maybe when you're on the RS, you put the landing lights on and land with them on. And then you'll turn them off as you leave the runway. They're too bright for taxiing. The turn-off lights you'll have on from the moment you start taxiing up until the gear comes up. And they'll come on again as the gear comes down. That we tie in the turn-off lights and the taxi light to the gear. It is quite confusing when I think about it. Like there's quite a lot of rules about lights on the Airbus. And when I first converted onto the Airbus, I was prone to forgetting one or more of these things. And I think a lot of people are. It's easy to forget. AC455, good to see you. Thanks for the livery. We've been enjoying it very much. Here we go then. Any second. Mac out star. Good stuff. Worked out nicely. TCAS to below. Fuel looking reasonable. Run a systems check. It's still not convinced we're going to arrive with enough fuel. Do our own calculation in a minute. We do have a headwind, so the wind wouldn't have helped the situation. All looking good. Right, let's tie up the arrival. So, thank you, Paris. Done with that. And here we go. Let's really confuse ourselves. LEPA, expecting 06. And we are arriving via Loris. Right, so let's just pin all of them. I find this easiest. It's a bit easier in real life because you tend to have more of an idea. We're expecting the Loris 1 Romeo, which is up here, which would be the RNAV, which is, let's face it, the most likely. In downwind and rates. Initial fix, NDB. Let's just check the weather there. So it is... Oh, no, we're not going to do that. 230, varying. With some CBs, 21 degrees. So what we're going to do is change that around. Is there another Loris? So we'll find out they're all for that other runway. Right, so maybe we're going to do the Loris. Sorry about that. Right, so Loris, 1 Juliet to 1 Kilo. What's the difference? 06 left, right, 24 left, right. So we could do the Loris 1 Kilo, couldn't we? Which would bring us out to Palenza. I think that's going to work out. Or we could do... this looks more normal, actually, and I don't know why. One Papa. Let's do the 1 Papa. Which I just deleted. Brilliant. Oh dear. Right, that's easy. Right, Loris 1 Papa. We'll go with that. Good. And then RLS would be a Zulu of some variety. Either 24 left or 24 right. So they should have fixed all the RLSs because this is the JustFlight one. That's the plan. And then we've got parking stands. So we'll just have the airport chart and the parking stands. That's a normal sort of setup. Good. So coming in, Loris, straight to Palenza. This is good because it will save us a bit of fuel. And then either the RLS for 24 left on the south side or the RLS 024 right on the north side. And then after landing, vacate, and in we go. VNAV is not modelled by this aircraft at the moment, I don't think. We shall find out shortly. So it's concerned about the fuel on board. I'm less concerned because we're burning the right amount. So 2 tons an hour is about right, slightly less. We've got, how far have we got? About an hour to go. Yeah, it's a bit confused, I think. Anyway, what we'll do is we'll put in the arrival. Which runway do we expect? That's the question. No controllers around. No. Yeah, still not modelled, no. 24 left is preferred. Thanks, Laura V. 24 left Zulu. Yeah, that rings a bell. RS1 Papa. Via. And we know the via points. Again, the real aircraft does it automatically, but it's going to be Palenza, Papa Oscar Sierra. There it is. Let's insert that. It's still very unconvinced about the fuel. Let's just have a look. What time does our overlay reckon? Overlay reckons we'll be there at 18:05, which is in an hour from now. So we've got an hour to fly. We're burning 2 tons an hour. So that 4.6 should be 2.6, which is about what I'd expect to land with. So where it's getting 1.1 from, I don't really know. Interesting. We'll keep an eye on it. But I expect us to land with about 2.6, and we'll save a bit of fuel because in the descent, of course, we'll be at idle thrust. So let's just check it looks right on the plan. So we go to plan, zoom in. Right, Valku, that's it. Because you could find... Nope, straight in. Yeah, that's all pretty reasonable. Estimated fuel on board is broken. There we go. Thanks, most of the BMW wanted. The plane won't auto descend. The VNAV isn't modelled by by Asobo, and fly-by-wire haven't managed to create their own yet because it's a very complicated thing to do. 9 out of 10 they heavy land on the left at the Palma. There we go. Great. Thanks, Lauren. See you later, the amazing pilot. Thanks for coming. No, Aviation Forever. I don't use metric. No, unless you go to a country that specifically uses it. How do I disable the WS sign on ECAM? I have no idea how to operate the transponder stuff. The WS on ECAM. Is that the wind shear? Is that this one? Predictive wind shear, yeah. So just turn on this little switch here. Predictive wind shear from off to auto. Yeah. We turn it off after landing because actually the NEOs have a different system than this. This is an old style radar. But anyway, we turn it off because as long as one engine's running on the ground, it will actually use the radar to power that system. So you don't want that running as you park on stand or anything. So we turn it off after landing and until we're taxiing out. We have it off. But yeah, so just turn it on. Mike's Basement, thanks for that. The SAS livery is pretty much finished. Excellent. I look forward to trying it out. I want to fly the 340-600 already. I'm already missing it. Just because it's just so good. So much fun to fly that plane. Sean says, I have a real-life pilot friend moving from the CRJ to the Airbus November. He is currently a captain, but I guess he'll go back to FO, changing type ratings. Nope. There's no reason for that, unless the airline's done that. There could be a reason. You know, if you're changing type, it could be that you're getting a promotion into a different part of the company or something like that. It does depend. I know it's different all over the world. But you're absolutely allowed to enter a new aircraft type as a captain. So you could be flying the CRJ as a captain and then go onto the Airbus as a captain. No problem. I'd say that's probably more common. If you're changing company, it's more likely you're going to go and become an FO again. More likely, but again, not certain. I know people who've gone onto new aircraft as captains at new companies. It does happen. Depends if the airline recruits like that. I am indeed using the experimental version. The amazing pilot enjoys the taxi camera in the Toliss. Yeah, it's very good. When are you flying the Dash? Real pilot stuff, says Lawrence Draper. Yeah, so the Dash, my old friend used to fly the Q400. I'm guessing whenever it comes out. I'll be buying it at launch with you guys, I think. I don't have any early access to that aircraft, but I am looking forward to it. The Dash 8 Q500 is a really interesting aeroplane. It's good in flight sim. It really needs 2 pilots, so it's going to be good fun. I looked at some of the streams that have happened, and it looks really good. Captures the sounds and so on. But yeah, the Q500, my goodness, so many gotchas in that aeroplane. Igloo who says you can always do a non-reward bonus long haul. Yeah, we could just do a long haul. Oh, we will. We'll definitely be taking the 340 for a spin soon enough, no doubt. How's our contrails looking? Excellent. It's our 50k. John Padfield, thanks so much for your $6.90 tip. That's very kind, John. John says, belated congrats on the 50k, Captain. Very well deserved. Got a quick question. If you don't use a checklist to carry out the task, are you expected to remember how to set up the aircraft before reading the checklist? That's very kind of you, John. Thanks so much. You've supported the channel so much, and I really appreciate that donation. And thanks for the congrats on the 50k. It's thanks to people like you coming along and supporting us and watching and clicking like. By the way, if you are on YouTube, do please click the like button. It makes a massive difference to the channel if you're enjoying the stream, of course. But yeah, so great question, John. So you have to use the checklist when you have to use the checklist. So your airline will have an operating checklist that you'll use, your before start checklist. The one you hear me read out quite consciously, the next one I'm going to read is the approach checklist. Now there's lots of flows that happen in the meantime. So there is also another set of checklists which are actual instructions as to every button you need to press and the order you need to do it on the Airbus. They're actually in the QRH normal procedures. So some of those we do, in fact there's only one we do from that book. We do the preliminary cockpit prep from the book, and that's an Airbus thing. So you'll read it through and you'll set it up from the QRH itself. So I every time I get on the airplane, I put the QRH out on the table and I go through it step by step. Now I know that checklist obviously pretty much off by heart, but that's not the point. There's a reason Airbus wants us to do it from the book, so I'm doing that, and that way it's quite a long checklist. After you've done that, we then do the flow. But it's obviously they deem it too important to do those things in the right order, and they don't think it needs to be done with both pilots at the same time. So one pilot can be off doing the walk around while the other pilot reads through that QRH checklist. From that point onwards, we do flows and then checklists, and the checklist is always written down. But yeah, so you will know the flows. I know what needs to be done. The Airbus is very good. It's not too prescriptive, so I know. I set up the MCDU. I don't have to get too fussy about the order I do it in, because the Airbus just knows. It knows what it needs to do. It knows what phase of flight it's in and so on. So yeah, it's really very good. Some aircraft are a little more prescriptive in their flows and at what point you do them. Another classic one would be the after landing flow. There is a taxi out flow in the Airbus, I suppose, so maybe I'm just getting used to them. The after start flow, for example, where we pilot flying gets rid of the APU if they don't need it, turns on the engine anti-ice if they need it, pilot monitoring, arms, resets the trim, sets the flaps, sets the trim here. There are flows out there, but all of them end in a checklist. I'm not sure I've answered that question. That's quite a confused answer. But yeah, the checklists are never, the actual one that we put out, the before takeoff checklist, is not a instruction list more than it's a just a sweep up of what we should have already done. Lawrence Draper, thanks so much for your £4.49 super chat. I really appreciate it, Lawrence. And Lawrence says, here's something towards a dash. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And yeah, it's very kind of you guys to support the channel so much. So thanks for coming along. And yeah, that dash, we are looking forward to it, aren't we? It's going to be good fun. That's going to be it's going to take me back to the things I need to remember about the Dash 8. I'm already trying to picture them. I remember a few of the big ones, but it'll be the little details of trying to operate that airplane. So when it comes, I warn you now, I won't be very good at flying it. I won't remember the flows or anything, because you naturally lose that information when you swap airplanes, because it's no good keeping all that old stuff in your head. It'll make life really difficult. Spud Nash is also getting the EFB warning there. The estimated fuel on board. But look at that, we've still got 4.4 tons. So do we even have a descent down arrow? No, we don't. We'll do it ourselves. LEPA 24 left. And it goes, 358 miles. No problem. No worries, John. So you learn the flows, then confirm with the checklist. That's it. Yeah, except for that very first cockpit prep one, which isn't actually, to be fair, in simulator world, it's mostly not there. Do they include it here? So here you go, preliminary cockpit prep. Engine masters off, mode selector norm, landing gear down, wipers off, batteries on. So you've actually heard me read this one out before, but yeah, this one is actually slightly different to the ones I've seen. But anyway, yeah, this is a version of the same thing. So that's the only one. Roy says, would you like the A320 to have an electronic checklist similar to the one on the 777? Well, it's got the ECAM memos, which I really like, and it's got the emergencies down on the ECAM. So I think it's very good, actually, even when you compare it to something like the 737. Some pilots prefer proper paper checklists for emergencies rather than the way we do it on the Airbus, which is partly ECAM and so on. It just depends what they've flown before, really. But I don't mind. I like the system the Airbus has got, really. The paper checklist is no problem. Some airlines store it here, some airlines store it down here. We don't have any storage up here on the Airbus, unless you pay extra or fit it yourself. GG, thanks for your follow, and bot rage. So I suppose I don't mind. No, I'm not too fussed. I don't know how to use an electronic checklist, so it's probably easiest for me not to have it. Apparently EFOB will remain broken until VNAV is implemented, as it requires it to calculate properly. There you go. Indeed, H, there is fixed info. Yeah, so we did set it up for departure. We'll set it up for arrival shortly. At AC455, we did indeed spot the coffee cup. Absolutely love it. Really nice. And nice nice texturing. That's going to be the... that looks suspiciously like the shade of my cat has. I didn't spot that. I thought it was shiny, actually. I thought it was like gold. Very good. Very good. Waffle, my dream plane. Well, 340-600 was one of them, hence why I was so excited about the Toliss release of that. Other ones, if you're talking just commercial airliners, 757 was at the top of the list. 380 will sit at the top of the list. Yeah, AC45. I didn't catch you until then. Oh. Whoops. Oh, that was a close call. That's because I tried to use the keys from... I was trying to use the keys from X-Plane. There we go. Yeah. I hadn't seen that. Mike Spaceman says, too bad we don't know how you look in real life. Otherwise, we could have made a set of textures where all the passengers in the A350 had your face. Right. Well, you've just given me a really good motivation to never reveal my face. Somebody's dangerously close to your six, Spudnash. There we go. Yeah, excellent. Definitely catching up. We landed whichever knots it's calculated for that day, so whichever speeds, depending on our weight, so what flap setting, what weight, will all change the speed we land at. Roy says the emergency checklist on the ECAM is definitely very good. I was thinking, what if Airbus put the normal checklist there as well, with the aircraft sensing if certain items are completed, so they wouldn't have to be read out loud. Yeah, it's a nice one, and it makes sense. Trying to think, the way the paper checklists are written is they account for that quite well. So they usually, so the paper checklist says stuff like, I think it was in the after start checklist that I've got here. So I'm not being airline specific here. This is just a generic sort of one. It says ECAM status checked, and that's quite common in the after start checklist for Airbuses. And I said that we mustn't have that status message here. So it is sort of working like that, but with the extra step of the paper checklist as opposed to ticking through things on here. So if it said status there, that would capture a whole load of things that could be wrong, and the airplane is basically telling us that without us having to look at every switch on the flight deck and check that we have turned on. Oh, is the generator on or off? You know, there's no checklist item for that, because it should be part of your flows, and then it would show up if I turn it off. Well, faders aren't really modelled, but it would show up as a status message there in the real aircraft. So yeah, but I don't think they'll do it now. I don't think they'll change it around, just because it'd be so much to do. But yeah, I know the 777 does have the full-on sensing stuff, and modern aircraft do. I wonder if the A220 does. That's more modern, you see. What is that sufficient separation, or are they too close? Oh, they're probably fine. I mean, if they're 1,000 feet below us, that's totally fine. They're not showing up in TCAS. Yeah, you're allowed to. They could be right next to us as long as they're. Yeah, no, not showing up. As long as they're 1,000 feet below. In the 737, you need to toggle your generators. There you go. Yeah, so the 73 is a few more. So that I suppose what I'm getting at is the paper checklists on the Airbus are relatively short anyway because of this. It's quite a neat integration, I think. It's been around for a while, so airlines have got quite good at creating a nice set of SOPs. Cockpit looks tiny, says John. I didn't know that. Yeah, I suppose it isn't an Airbus. The Airbus has a very big cockpit for a short haul aircraft. But I've never seen an A220, never been on one, never been on the flight deck. I've seen them in at airports. TGS is flight level 360, excellent. So that's absolutely fine then, yeah. Waffle says, how often are the electrical buttons on the overhead panel used behind the pilot? Do you guys have to learn how to use them, or is that in charge of the flight engineer? There's no flight engineer. These are used only if there's a procedure that requires it to be reset. There are some procedures in the QRH, and there's some ECAMs that will direct you to reset these. The green ones are monitored, so if they pop out, the ECAM will tell us that it's popped out. What we don't do is, if these pop out, we don't just reset them, because it means there's a problem with that system. Bacon Warrior, good to see you. And no, not the 50k stream just yet. This is just, we're using that special livery AC455 kindly made. Yeah, the takeoff and landing memos, exactly. They are really quite powerful. Yeah. Right, as I said, let's pull up the chart. So let's use this fixed info page. So what am I going to use it for on this sort of approach? It's going to be terrain. Easily going to be terrain. So we're expecting 24 left. Let me get rid of 24 right. So here we go. This is all based off the Juliet Oscar Alpha VOR. And then we have all these different segments. So let's load them in. I'm going to try, see if I can do this. Thanks for the follow, Salty Kraken. So, flight plan. That's not going to work. There we go. Fix info. By the way, and again, I've got a video tutorial coming up on this. If you click on any of these, it's not going to give it to you. You have to go flight plan, one left, fix info. Right. I'm going to do it from this page. This is nice and clear. So it's based on the Juliet Oscar Alpha VOR. So first of all, we type it in. It's our fix. It's the point that all of the next information is going to be based on. There's Joa 30, which is 274 miles away. No, Juliet Oscar Alpha, 298 miles away, and it's 117.7. So I'm going to check that. 1177 JOA. That's the correct one, so we'll choose that. Sounds silly, but it will put the closest one first, and sometimes there'll be another one that's closer. Often there won't be, because they're usually on the other side of the planet if they've got the same ident or identifier. But there could be, at the same airport, a JOA, VOR, and NDB. That's very common, with a different name. So you could find that you've got to choose the right one, because they might not be next to each other. So you need to pick the correct one for what you're doing. So I know this is based on that, and then I'm going to put a 25-mile radius around it. So that's that ring. Great. Now, the MSA to the south is quite good at 3,000, but to the north, it goes quite high. It's at 7,000 on that 163. So I need to make sure that I know when I'm in that sector. So I'm going to put in this line 163. But obviously we have to do the reciprocal, so it's going to be the 343 radial up. So I put 343, and that's just to do with the way Jeppesen do their charts. 343 here. Now, I only get two options. I've got 343, and you can see I've got another line, and I want to put in both of these lines because the MSA is going to be 7,000 here because of all this terrain, 5,500 here because of that bit of terrain there. So I want both, really. So I've done the 163. Next is going to be the 209. But obviously we do the reciprocal. And now if we look at the ND and put it into plan. Thanks for the follows. And then we scroll down all the way to the airport. You'll see, there we go. There's that sector at the top. So see how it matches? We've got 7,000 foot MSA in this slice of pie. The blue lines do go on forever, which can be a bit confusing. You have to do this with both pilots in mind, because you've got to know where you base this circle, what it's telling you. It's easy to get confused. What if I was trying to draw this for the go around? And again, I talk about this all in the video in much more detail. As you can imagine with my videos, I think it's like 40 minutes long as usual. But I want this last line, I want this 237 line, because that is going to be really useful, because that's going to tell me when the 5.5 drops to 3, and I'm going to fly my approach just on the other side of that. So that would be really useful. So what I can do, a lot of you will know this who've followed the channel for a while and seen me, especially in the Toliss, but if we go to fix info, I can just go to page 2 and start again. JOA. Nothing to stop me reusing it, you see, in another page. And don't need to put the ring in for this one, but now I just put in the reciprocal of 237. If you're wondering why there's a pause, it's because I'm checking it. No! Wrong place. There we go, 057. Get rid of that 57-mile ring. Good. And now, in the real aircraft, it would be a bit, you'd see it as you go. But there we go. So we've got an MSA 7,000 feet, reducing to 5.5, and then finally, just as we come at Bavum and turn onto the RLS, it drops down to 3,000 feet. Useful information. So there you go. There's the fix info page. Really great job by Fly-by-Wire to include that. Let's put it onto constraints to see what we've got. 250 knot limit, then at Bavum above 4.5, which would hopefully agree with our charts, because we're going from POS to Bavum, 2.5 after Bavum. So let's just check it has that coded. Bavum at 4.5, 2.5 after that. Now, how do we know we need to be 4.5 at Bavum? What does this little 1 say? 13, 185, 4,500 feet. This is a very, very complicated chart. You remember from my tutorial on RLS charts, I said that I show the Rome one actually and point out how many different bits of info there are on it. This one is, it's amazing. This is a really busy chart. So this sector is actually shortened, is not to scale, hence this little dash line area. So we come from Pollenza to Bavum, and that little 1 takes me to this note which says 13 miles. So that is 13 miles away from the Pollenza VOR. 185, so it's on the 185 radial, and it's 4,500 feet. So 4,500 feet, Bavum, which is about 18 miles away from the VOR, which is basically at the airport. So 18 miles away will be 4,500 feet. Is that good? Well, 4,500 times 3 would be 12, 13 and a half miles that we need. And we're going to have about just under 18, about 17. So that's fine, but I want to be at 4.5, not much higher, and I don't want to be fast. I want to have the speed coming back to 220 knots by that point, or we're going to struggle to slow down, because we're going to have to also descend pretty soon on a 3 degree. So there you go. So these are just some of the tools that we can use on the fix info. Terrain is the most common, but there are other ones. For example, the go around, if you look at this, it takes us away on the 193. So let's read it. Missed approach, climb on runway heading to 420, turn left, not before the radial 193, JOA, max 185. Follow radial 193, JOA, climb to 3000. So you know what I'm going to do next. Why not? Let's put that 193 in. A bit easier because it is the actual radial, and I've got one spare slot sitting there just asking for a radial. So there we go, 193, and that will be what we'll follow in the go around. Now the airplane's going to do it in nav. It's not like we need to draw it on, but it's not uncommon. Oh, flight plan first would help. It's not uncommon to do this sort of thing, because if you look, there it is, 193 off to the south. So we'll go past that radial, turn back, intercept it, and head out. It's just nice, bit of situational awareness, a bit clearer. Thanks very much, Andy. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming along, and thanks for watching. Thanks for the follow, Quattro for Cheese. That is a good Twitch username, no doubt. Waffle, for the 50k stream, we'll be flying Concorde. I'm learning it, but it's taking time. It's taking time. It's one of the hardest sim aircraft I've ever had to use. The manuals are... I was reading the full manuals at first, and I was thinking I'm never going to manage this, because they were going on forever, because they have so much detail on that add-on. And what I really like about the manuals is you can tell that the person who wrote those and the designer of the aircraft loves Concorde so much. As a result, the manuals are full of this sort of passion for the aircraft, which is great, but it was a lot of information. So luckily they've also made, which is just brilliant, they've done a quick start sort of cold and dark guide. So I've done that one, got it to power up and take off, which I'm really happy about, and it taught me loads about the systems as we went through it. But next I've got to learn how to navigate and then how to do the supersonic stuff. That's going to be a bit of hard work. So I'm working on it. We will get there. Excellent aviation forever. Glad to hear it. Rob, glad you're watching us on Twitch and glad you're enjoying it. Thanks for coming along. TGS says, I used to think I know how to fly the A320, but after watching you I'm confused. Hopefully not. I'm sure you know what you're doing. This is extra stuff. You know, this is extracurricular, the fixed info page. No one needs to use this to pass their line check and fly the aircraft. So how far to go? 240 miles. So we've got a good 100 miles before we need to start our descent. Light crosswind. All good. You can see that blue radial starting to show up as we get closer. So apart from VNAV, what is missing in fly-by-wire compared to the Toliss, says John Armstrong? We're talking mostly the failure sort of side of things. Yeah, the VNAV side of things as well. The Toliss have a very complete set of avionics in the Airbus. Mike's Basement says the quick guide is about 100 pages and the full manual is 400 to 500. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I need to use that. They've made a quick guide for navving it, so that's the one I'm working on next. Because I don't know how to start the INS at all. I used to have it was called the SimCheck. I don't know how many of you had that for FSX. SimCheck A320 and that's what I had, and that was where, oh, those clouds, unbelievable. And look at the way the shadows cast on each other. That's mad. I don't know how they've done that. And I don't know how they've done that and it just runs on my computer. Yeah, indeed, secondary flight plan is also missing from the A32NX. There is quite a few things, but it's not a criticism, it's just that they're working really hard on this freeway project, really. Right, what was I saying? Those clouds have distracted me. Yeah, so the SimCheck A300B4 had an INS system as well, not the IRS system we're used to. And I remember I did manage to enter some waypoints into that, and I could navigate up and down a route. I was really proud of myself. Totally forgotten now. Haven't got a clue how to use it now, so it's back to square one, really. There is a Concorde coming on Flight Simulator, but I haven't seen much about it. I don't know who's making it or anything like that. This is going to be the X-Plane one. This is default clouds. Default Microsoft Flight Simulator clouds, yeah. I try and keep sim level stuff default because I want it to be as compatible as possible when there's an update, because obviously stability is my big concern. You can't delete waypoints within a star. Oh, there you go. In Microsoft Flight, in the A32NX, yeah, there's a few. They've got a custom LNAV, which I'm so happy about, because you can do without VNAV. We can manage using vertical speed, open descent, just judge it ourselves. You can't do without LNAV. It just has to work. DC Designs are making Concorde for Microsoft Flight Simulator. There we go. Thanks for the follow. So John says the Concorde NFS 2020 will have an FMC that Concorde would have got if it continued. There you go. Aviation Forever. I have not loaded up Jurassic Park since our stream. No. I will. I'll get round to that. It's been busy trying to keep up with Flight Sim. This has been a really busy couple of months for Flight Sim. It's been quite amazing. Kai's back. Homemade lasagna. Very nice. I don't. It is that time of the stream where we start talking about food. Yeah, the what was I saying? Oh yeah, and I think someone mentioned Flight Data Sim's Concorde stream. So I did. I looked at Flight Data Sim's last Concorde stream, and I got 10 minutes in to the setup and realised how little I knew. And I was just staring, going, "How on earth is he finding all those switches?" So that's when I went digging through the manuals and finally found the quick start guide. Remember, excuses for landing. Don't worry, we will. Aviation Forever. We'll get those in. I suppose it's also the time of the stream where we probably should promote some merchandise. So there's going to be some new merchandise coming at some point. What should we promote today? Let's do the hoodie. We haven't seen the hoodie. Now, I don't know why it shows the grey hoodie. You can have this in several colours, all colours that we chose. And I also wanted to show the back, but because the back is got the full aircraft on it. So that hoodie, you get the tail logo in a sort of crest on the front, and then on the back of it, I believe, if I've got this right, is the we'll check on the website. I should know that, but it's let me see. Make sure it's still loading right. Yeah, the back is the full Golf Sierra India Mike X-ray, which is our original Toliss A321 livery that I came up with, and it looks, I really like it. It's a custom piece of artwork done by our graphic designer who drew that. Really nice, really nice. I do like it a lot. Not to promote my own merchandise too much. Hayden says, how many of us in the hold? I think you're doing all right today. We are sitting with 288. Oh no. Well, we'll probably put 100 of you in the hold. I don't want the lucky passengers in the cabin to get too crowded, so about 100 of you. Checkpoint wants new merch, new Christmas presents. Okay, Checkpoint. Oh, I don't know if I'll get it done in time. I'll try. I'll see. See what I can do. White Jedi, I haven't looked up the tax relief on domestic UK flights. Is that in the budget today, is it? Richard V says, getting a bit cosy down there. TGS wants to know before descent. No worries, TGS. Where are you? It was good that the contrast showed up for both of us. But I've lost you. And I'm going to find out I've disconnected. Mike Spaceman says, you look at all the switches and knobs in Concorde from the pilot seat view and then you switch to the flight engineer. Exactly, yeah, that's what happened to me. Yeah, I'm not sure why we've lost TGS. Strange. Just check. Yeah, we're showing up on their screen. Right. Let's get the latest weather. And then we can load up the final bits in the MCDU. Weather requests. Send. Final little bits to brief then. So, we talked about our star. We've got a plan for that. Finishing at Palenza, then 4-5 after Palenza, and in we go on the ILS. Pretty straightforward ILS. Starting at 2.5, which is quite low. Elevation of the airport is also basically sea level, so that keeps life easy. But it is a 3-degree ILS, starting at 7.5 miles, all as expected. Radio altimeter will come alive about as we start down from 2,500, or roughly 7.5 miles. Minima, we're a Cat C airplane, so 239. Let's just go back, print the new one. Print, and it goes on top. Very clever. That's nice and handy, rather than having to click back and look at it. So let's go to Perth. Right, so 21 degrees, 1016. Wind nice, 2306. It is saying CBs. We do have a bit of extra fuel, few 25 CBs. Not great, but if the wind's 2306, it's a good sign that they're not too active at the moment, or not sitting right on top of the airfield. Could be messing up our approach though. It's possible they'll be in the way of the approach if they're nearby. Usually CBs have a habit of sitting just as you try and stabilise the aircraft for 1,000 feet. So what happens is you get huge wind changes which make it very difficult to stabilise the aircraft. They have a habit of doing that. 239 for the Barrow. We'll do a config full landing, 132 approach, transition altitude, well it should be the transition level. if we find, it's going to say altitude 6, so we'll do 7.5. Good for the go rounds. We did read the go round, but the stop altitude is 3,000 feet, so I'll put that in here. Great. Yeah, still not happy about the fuel. Definitely thinks we're running out. That's no problem. So hopefully we'll land off this flat full. We'll be rolling out on the south, and we'll come off low water brake. It's a huge runway, 3,000 meters. Not much of an inset threshold either, so we'll come off Sierra 1 or Sierra 2. And then what I think we'll do is we're going to drive up, and I'm going to follow Kilo, Juliet, Echo, and head in, park up here on Lima Echo, just so we get to enjoy the terminal a bit, see the airport. As I said, this is JustFlight's new one. It's their new one for Palma de Mallorca. The link is in the description. Let me see if I can find it. So this was actually made with the help, or by a team of some, I believe I'm saying this right, by a team of actual pilots who know the airport. A very small team consisting of real-world pilots. So it has the custom buildings, obviously, as you'd expect, but it has some nice PBR texturing, which is really really what we like to see. It turns it into a little bit of a diorama, as I've said before. They fixed all the ILSs, and apparently they have animated elevators and escalators at the main entrance, so we might have to take the drone for a spin and have a look at that before we do the replay, because I'm curious. And animated hangar doors, but I wouldn't know how to make them open or close, so we'll have a look around. They've sorted out obviously the accuracy of the parking positions and so on, and all the ground textures. Over 300 custom buildings, it says. There you go. So it should be quite nice. I'm looking forward to it. Jay says, do you have any videos on navigating the Airbus through poor weather? If you do not have any quick tips. The problem is we operate the aircraft as if we're flying through poor weather all the time, really. We're always IFR. There's perhaps our colleague in front. We'll undercut them. Yeah, so I don't really have any tips. The anti-ice systems, I do have a video on. Where I talk about when you're going to use engine and wing anti-ice. And I've got videos on landing in strong winds. Aside from that, there's not a whole lot I can think of, to be honest with you. I'm thinking of doing a video about weather. The only problem is we don't really have a very accurate weather radar. So until we have one of those to use, I'm going to struggle with that one. Roy says, I know you don't use P3D, but the first officer plug-in there with voice control for the A320 is really fun. Makes me sound like a pro when calling for checklists below the line. Very good, yeah. Victor Tango says, can you please explain how you decide how much extra fuel you take if needed when you make a flight plan? So, our flight plan today, let me just check how far we've got to go. Oh, progress page, my favourite, 146. So we'll be going down, I'll give it another 15 miles. Yes, so, and as you can see, there's no down arrow or anything. It's still not working. Yeah, so today it wanted us to take 6.2 tons of fuel. Now, I know weather in Flight Simulator doesn't really paint CBs, so I don't actually worry. With the CBs that were actually appearing on the current weather, I would have considered taking extra fuel for that. CBs being cumulonimbus, just because it might not be a major issue to stop you landing, but it could block the approach and delay other aircraft or you. So if that happens, you want to have a bit of buffer. So our trip fuel was 1 hour 37, which is fine, so you check that that's sensible. Then you've got contingency fuel. Now this SimBrief gives me 15 minutes contingency by default. Real airlines don't use that anymore. We used to, but now you'll usually have 5 minutes, and that's it. It's not much. So a third of that. So instead of 500 kilos contingency fuel on this flight, we'd have had about 150. Then alternate fuel at Barcelona is quite good, 1.2 tons of fuel. So there is something to be said for this. We're going to, if there's no CBs, going to Palma de Mallorca. It's got 2 big runways, well equipped with ILSs, and the alternates Barcelona, I wouldn't be too concerned about taking extra fuel because it'll be quite easy to commit to Palma de Mallorca, depending on the weather situation or traffic situation, because you've got 2 big runways. So if you get there and they say, oh, you need to hold for 5 minutes, it's just a bit busy, you could say, well, we don't want to divert to Barcelona, which is half an hour away, and arrive there with less fuel. So what we're going to do is we'll stick with Palma de Mallorca, and we'll use that fuel as holding fuel. Now there is a limit on that, and you do have to declare minimum fuel if at any point you think you're going to go below final reserve. I should do a fuel video. Let me write that one down. A real in-depth. The only problem with that is I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments from different pilots who've all got different opinions on it, who've flown at different airlines, because airlines will have different policies on how much extra you can and can't take. Some will let you take more, some won't. But so for today, with CBs, the required fuel was 6.2, ignoring the contingency fuel and just saying, well, actually, no, not ignoring it. 50 minutes contingency fuel is fine. I would want to have half an hour contingency fuel with CBs, because that normally is the time it takes for them to pass through, and then keeping Barcelona as the alternate, which hopefully doesn't have CBs. If I would also change the alternate to one that had good weather. There's no point having an alternate that also has thunderstorms and CBs if you can avoid it. So you might have to take a bit of extra fuel for a better alternate and then have the fuel to hold where you're going. Just as an example. So I would increase, let's say Barcelona was fine, but I'd double the contingency fuel from 500 kilos to a ton, and then you got a ton of extra holding fuel while you wait for any weather to pass through. If it doesn't pass through in time, then we can go to Barcelona still, assuming the weather was good there. That was a very long answer. That could definitely be a video. Yeah, descent time. Thanks very much. 120 miles. So, first one on the charts from Loris, flight level 70. In it goes. So TGS, we're descending. Thrust idle open descent. It's out blue 70. Now that is too close. We couldn't do this. They're too close behind us. You wouldn't be descending through their level. Down we go. Lovely. Oh, and there's someone down there. So what's happened is they've descended a bit earlier than us, and as a result, we've had a higher true airspeed because we're obviously sitting above them. So yeah, we've passed TGS. So that's why we've now caught up with this person who we were behind by quite a bit more of a margin. Formation flying, exactly, checkpoint. Thanks, Victor Tango. Yeah, that's a really good point, and I can't believe I haven't thought of it already. So fuel has gone on my list. My list is about 8 videos long at the moment. It's one of the longest lists I've ever had. Well, I ticked one of them off today. New video on the channel. When I did my Hawk preview video, I actually edited out the startup because it's quite long, but it is a very good startup process. It's quite simple and it makes a lot of sense, and it's got good sound effects, so I wanted to show it. So I just said, if anyone wants to see a full startup, let me know.
Traffic, there seems to be an A320 around our altitude right next to us. Can you please confirm your flight level 350?
They're talking to us. We're not 35. There's quite a few Airbuses sharing this piece of sky, sadly. So it's a bit frustrating about any sort of TCAS. Oh, there we go. Palma's approach online, so they tend to see when we're all coming, so that's good. Totally forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, so the Hawk video. So yeah, people wanted to see the full startup, so I've done a video on that. Now I'm not a Hawk pilot, I never have been. It was purely a bit of fun, so there are more accurate ones out there. If you've been enjoying the JustFlight Hawk though, which I have a lot.
Starting descent to 070 at 200 feet per minute.
If TCAS tells you to climb, do you put the throttle to toga? No. If TCAS tells you to climb and you don't have automatic TCAS, you'll take off the autopilot, you'll turn off the flight directors, and I'll show you why. Autopilot off, flight directors off, and you'll see the auto thrust go straight into speed, and that's all you do, and then you put the vertical speed where you want it. So now I can pitch the aircraft even into a climb, and you'll see that the engines will spool up because we've got it into speed mode by turning off those flight directors. So that's why we do that. And then when we recovered, put it back something sensible. Thrust idle, open descent, heading, let's get it into nav. And you do that with 2 pilots, obviously you do it all together. But that's why, so yeah, you wouldn't bother changing the thrust levers, you'd leave them at climb, but you turn off the flight directors so it goes into speed mode, and it will automatically keep the speed. You're effectively speed protected. I turn down the audio, which is no good at all.
Continue to send and maintain flight level 220 and expect vectors for the ALS approach runway 24 left via the Lotus 1 Papa.
Let's grab the ATIS.
Descend the flight level 220.
Thanks for the follow.
Speedbird 55 Golf.
Always awkward when
55 Golf, thank you very much.
they're waiting for you to check in, and you're still waiting for your ATIS to print, or you forgot to get the latest. Does happen. That is information alpha.
Speedbird 55 Golf, turn right heading 180 degrees.
4 prawns would like a fuel video as well.
180 degrees, Speedbird 55 Golf.
From 927, thank you very much. Identify.
What do they call themselves? What's going to be the call sign here?
0 and maintain Lotus 1 Papa right for
Palma De Mallorca. Just waiting to check in here. Palma, good evening. Manta 293 descending flight level 70 to Kureg. We are at 320 NEO with information alpha.
Can you repeat your call sign, please?
Manta 293. It's always awkward when we use our own.
Mensa 293, very good day to you. Please recycle Squawk 6261.
Squawk 6261, Manta 293. 6261. Right. I'm going to load up the flight recorder.
Level 100, Speedbird 55 Golf.
Mensa 293, thank you very much. Identify as flight level 239. Continue descent to flight level 200. Expect the vectors for the ALS Zulu approach runway 24 left. Turn left heading off 170, please.
Descend flight level 200, left heading 170 degrees, vectors ALS Zulu 24 left, Manta 293. Great. 200, pull the heading, 170, that's it. Now, how are we doing for miles? 60 miles out, 22,000 feet. We're pretty much high, so if he holds us at 200 for any length of time, we're going to get the speed right back, because we're actually getting ourselves quite high here. Just checking that ATIS, they're reporting temperature plus 18, QNH 1016.
293, continue left turn heading up for 150 degrees.
Heading 150 degrees, Manta 293. Right, that's adding to our track miles.
Approach, this is Alpine 46 Mike Echo, descending through flight level 287. Break from 72 Papa, descend to, what do we have here for you? 6,000 feet, please, and expedite your descent.
So there's speed out star. We're getting high. I'm going to put the speed back as well.
6,000 feet, QNH 1016 there from 72 Papa and expedite as well.
Could be the traffic beneath us causing this. We are going to set low auto brake. There it is.
Palma radar 2E8 from Tango radio check.
Oh, there's 2E as well. Excellent. So there we go. We've done the brief for that. Done that. Done our MSAs. Good stuff. Next is the approach checklist.
From Jet 87 Tango.
3 tons of fuel at this point. That's good because we're going to be at idle. As you can see, only burning 100 kilos. That's not very realistic. I'm pretty sure they burn slightly more at idle, even at 20,000 feet.
Thank you very much. Can we request our clearance to Gatwick, please? 62
I think.
QNH.
Certainly the older engines burn at this altitude 300 plus at idle.
Aircraft type bearing 737-8 max.
I will call you back shortly. Break, Alpine 46 Mike Echo. Very good evening to you. Please recycle.
Chris Pattons is taking out the Toliss A340. Enjoy it. That's a great machine.
Squawk 6
263, I'll pay for 6.
Nice way, it's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming along. Palma Control, says Roy. There we go.
7.
I missed that one.
Continue send to 6,000 feet of
Yeah,
wind.
these radials are all from this new fixed info. Very useful. So these are our different MSAs. High, lower, lowest. No, sorry. Highest, lower, lowest. See how easily it gets confused when you're pointing the wrong way.
From 927, 6,000 feet, QNH 1016.
We're getting really high here, so I'm going to bring the speed back to green dot. Not something I'd normally do at 20,000 feet, but every knot is going to count now. So going to print that ATIS. That's just loading the ATIS weather, which should be the most accurate. He said Zulu, so we'll ignore that Yankee. Transition level 70. Still not sure why this says out. I still haven't found the real world example of that, but apparently it's out there, and I can believe it. I can't figure out why it would be like that. So it's dropped in temperature a bit, +19. 1016.
Clear to Gatwick on the Meros 3 Alpha departure.
Still okay.
Right, initial climb 5,000 feet, down score 6527.
55 miles to go. Bit of a tailwind. I'll have to ask him soon.
Roger, 6257.
Mike's Basement says, when watching Austin and the rest of the devs talk about X-Plane 12, there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be great. They sound so passionate. They do indeed. They do. Green dot is our, effectively our best speed minimum drag. We don't tend to go below it routinely, because if you go below it, you start to get more drag again from the airplane trying to generate lift, so the engines have to start spooling up. So if we were doing 200 knots, we'd actually have to use more power than doing 215 knots. So that's what green dot is. It's the most efficient speed where we don't have much drag from the air because we're going slowly, but we also don't start generating extra drag by trying to raise the nose too much and generate lift off those wings at low speed, because they're not very good at that. Evening, Wayne. So John, the transition level, and this is something I want to make a video on, the transition level would be, for example, 60, then the first altitude would be 5,000 feet. So if the transition level is 7.5, that means if they descend 6,000 feet, QNH 1016, Manta 2903. Right, we'll just get down there. 6,000 feet. Thrust idle, open descent, out blue 60, push that in, 1016. There we go. QNH 1016 is set on both sides, out blue 6,000. And that speed is not enough, I want more. So I'm going to go right up to 300, just to get the height off now. We're off the arrival, so although we have a 250 knot limit, it would be polite of me to ask him, but we're not actually following that procedure, so there is an argument that we could go faster, but he might not like that. Or it might be written somewhere in those charts that we should be doing 250 knots at a certain range. Sometimes they do that as well. So I'll just ask. Manta 2903, can we keep high speed?
Manta 2903, speed is yours.
Thank you, Manta 2903. There you go. So instead of getting ourselves high, we can just clear it up by asking air traffic, and he's happy for us to speed up, so we will. Down we go. It's not speeding up fast enough. I'm going to use the speed brakes. Down we go. Yes, so if the transition level, like today, the transition level was 7.5. That's the last level. So I would descend to flight level 7.5, but if he said descend to 7,000 feet, that would be at a QNH. So they will tell you, if they say flight level or altitude, they will actually say it to you when they, like he did there when he said descend 6,000 feet. I don't have to make it up, as it were, but it's good to know, mainly for terrain separation reasons. Right, we need to be 45 miles out now, so we're looking good. We're just a bit fast, so we'll keep going down.
Clear for ILS 124 West Yankee. Like caution 2.
Evening, Marcon. Good to see you.
And please report established.
I've not reported established here.
We haven't done our 4Gs in the Airbus yet. Just hawking.
Palma radar, good evening, Tomjet 2952, stand 737-800 with Alpha, clearance please, London Gatwick.
Apparently the print button's a bit risky. Okay, interesting. Jesus said, so is it equal to VY or VX? So those are best rate and best angle of climb speeds. So green dot, let me get this right. Green dot should be your best angle of climb, I think. I need to check that. Whereas your best rate of climb could be faster. But I need to do a bit of research on that one.
Continue descent 2,000 feet and cleared ILS 24 left, Air France 70, Papa Papa.
Luke, the way I manage to remember it and process what they say, I write it down. It's easier in real life because when you're sitting there, I would often I can just write it into one of these scratch pads.
240 knots or less indicators from now on, please.
240 or less, Mentor 293. So you can actually write it just in the scratch pad, or sometimes you'd write it down on paper, especially taxi clearances. If the other person's flying, you could lean across and write it in the other MCDU, which can help them sometimes. If there's something they need to remember, that's more useful in degradation examples. Let's get full speed brake out now. Get that speed right back. So 240 knots now, which makes sense as we know there's airplanes ahead of us. Let's get the LS buttons up. Let's activate the approach phase now, as we're not flying the procedure. There it is. Alright, 37 miles out, 30 miles, so it's coming together. It's coming together. Yeah, 4,000 feet per minute, Jack, is no problem in real life. Passengers wouldn't know. 4,000 you can do over 6. Even if you reach 7, they wouldn't know the difference. It just depends how aggressively you entered it. Obon says, I'm assuming VX as it's where there'll be the most excess thrust. Yeah, because it couldn't be VY because VX would be slower, and I don't think, and it wouldn't be slower, therefore more efficient. So yeah, I agree. That's my thinking.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I write it down. That's the way I remember it. And that's the way I'd recommend anyone using VATSIM does it. Because when I'm streaming, I find it really hard to remember. In real life, it's easier because it's the only thing you've got to do is just remember that one number. It is a lot easier than when you're doing it in a simulator. And the other thing is, usually, one pilot's on the radio and one pilot's flying. So the pilot on the radio will say, I think we're doing fine now, speed brake's coming in. I'm actually going to convert to vertical speed and manage the speed. And let's do 1,000 feet per minute from now. Speed, vertical speed, and we'll just let it come back to green dot. Yeah, so what I mean is,
passing flight level 170.
One pilot's doing the radio, so you read it back, and then the other pilot, whilst you're reading it back, will probably have set it in the window, and it all happens a lot quicker. It's a much more complete process in real life than it is when there's just one of you reading it back, writing it down, and then selecting it later, if you see what I mean. That's why it's easy to forget. Aviation Forever, I just pick a route that seems fun. We do this sort of flight a lot. Paris seemed like a good distance away, and I wanted to go and see La Palma for the new scenery. So it just depends, really. Sometimes we get requests. Yeah, my spacement with CPDLC, absolutely. You get it written down on here, which is great. Not at this stage of flight. They wouldn't vector you on it, but in the cruise, yeah. And it makes life a lot easier. You can see our auto brake's lost. It's a shame. No, monitoring pilot won't set the MCP or FCU in an Airbus. The monitoring pilot will be on the radio and they'll read it back on the radio. Pilot flying, me in this case, would then select it up here. Yeah, transition level is picked by ATC, TCS. So that's why on the ATIS it told us transition level 70. So I guessed 75, but it is actually 70.
Can you do 250?
Well, You're almost already at 40.
We're going to go south of the centre line. I can see that clearly. So you can see
Roger, we'll just
we're actually so far out we can't use our MSA. So luckily we're visual, but we're not within our ring because there is some high ground over here. Because we're heading down into uncharted territory. Yeah, it's not even on any of these charts. Could be on a reference chart. There we go. Okay, so it could be a 4,000 foot MSA in this area. Because that's out to 60 miles. This is quite a clear chart. A lot of them aren't this clear. So I'd say between 5 and 4. There's that star. We'll keep it at green dot because we're going the wrong way now, so I want to burn as little fuel as possible while I do it. Sun's going to be in our eyes. That's one excuse for landing. A32NX we haven't used in a while. That's another one. We're heavy, 64 tons, 65 tons. So that's it. I think that covers us. The sun in the eyes is the classic though. That's undisputed as one of the worst ones to have. Right, heading 260 man to 293.
And for 293, descend to 4,000 feet.
Descend 4,000 feet, man, to 293. So there you go. The other pilot would have already set both of those, but now I've got to set them, having read back one and then the other. That's why I write them down. So 260, and I've written down 4. Then we need to go into a mode. How far out are we? We are 33 miles out, so vertical speed of 500 will be fine. That's 4,000 feet is safe in this sector, we know from our radar chart, and we're visual. So out blue, 4,000. We're not cleared for the ILS, but I can see that is a gentle intercept from the south. It has sequence to Bavum. It's important it does that. So that, again, the fly-by-wire LNAV system is just so good. It's such an improvement. I'm so happy about it. I can't stress that enough. And I'm going to keep it at green dot. Now, within 30 miles, I'd expect to see some sort of ILS indications. Ah, you're struggling with the controller. Okay, that's probably the way I've got set up vPilot. Let me adjust it for you.
From 556,
hopefully that's a bit better.
200 or more until 10 DME and cleared.
So we haven't cleared for the ILS, so I will have to prompt him just to make sure. So you could sequence it now. I could draw an extended centre line. McLaren, thanks for following. Yeah, I could draw a line out here, but it's not worth it. It's sequenced to Bavum, and I'm clearly going to go via Bavum. I'd be surprised if we don't. And RS24 left Zulu is showing up there correctly. Again, such a good new system. We are going to go over some high ground, so we might get an early rad out. Although we are just about missing it here, so it should be okay.
Roger, thank you very much. Make it 200 until 10.
Oh, good question. I don't know, Mike's Basement, I'm afraid. I didn't even know you had to do a flat 3 takeoff in the 340-600. Martin Scott, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Enjoy your landing, TGS. Thanks for flying along.
Roger.
Bratislav, you can't use max auto brake for landing. It's not possible in the real aircraft. It's not safe. We don't use it for landing, only for takeoff.
293, 200 knots, please until 10 DME and on press heading cleared for the ILS Zulu approach runway 2 left number 3.
200 knots to 10D, cleared ILS Zulu for runway 24 left, man to 293. Good. Clear for the approach, so press that and that. Glide slope lock, blue, cat 3 single. Dual now, AP1+2. That's very good. That's just what it does in real life. Usually it ticks through them. So now it's going to intercept, hopefully. We have the indications. India Papa Alpha Lima, 24 miles. That all makes sense. And he said 200 knots. I don't want to go to VLS. I'm going to select the flaps. So flaps to 1. Now it's going to take us a bit too slow. It's a bit pedantic, but I'm going to be very careful and do 200 knots. So he said 200 knots to 10 miles. Now that's, as we know, that's about the limit. I don't want to be going any faster than 200 at 10. So I'm going to get to 10, and I think just before 10, especially if we're following the glide slope, we're going to need to put out flap 2 before that. So I may adjust a little bit what I'm doing here. Because if I keep 200 knots flap 1, you'll see that I can't actually put flap 2 out. So we're going to pass 10 miles and we're cleared from 4,000 feet. So that's going to intersect to 12. So at 10 miles, we'll already be on the RLS, descending with flap 1 at 200 knots, in which case we won't be able to put flap 2 out and we'll find ourselves too fast. There's lock start. So I have a way to cheat a little bit. I did indeed fly the Toliss 340. It is on the YouTube zine. Thanks for coming along. And yeah, I thought it was excellent. Really enjoyed it. And I'll be flying it again soon, no doubt.
Perfect, thank you very much. Alpine 46 Mike.
Oh, I don't know about the 737. I don't know about the auto brakes on that. We are indeed heavy, with basically no headwind. So it is interesting. Now, the real situation is, tell air traffic you can't do it.
24 left approach, report moon established and
19 miles out.
speed 160 knots. Alpine
So what I could do is I could say to air traffic now, the easiest way, I'll say, can I do 190 instead? At 190 knots, we could safely use flap 2 without the risk of overspeeding it, and it's going to make next to no difference to air traffic control. So that's the reality. That's what you do.
No problem, right, heading 260.
There you go. 18 miles out. See the runway lights? Pointing straight in, you usually can. So we're going to inset that RLS about 12 miles. I'm just going to tell him. Yeah, John, dumping the gear would be the ultimate resort, because we can use the gear from 250, so that would work very well. Outstar.
Thank you very much.
Manta 293. Can we do 190 knots to 10?
Manta 293, yes, you can reduce speed to 180 or less, please.
Great, thank you. 180 or less, Manta 293. Solved. You just got to ask. And basically, I pose that as a question. You could just say, we are unable 200 to 10, but we can give you 190 to 10. Just something different. And they'll know that there's some reason, like the flap limiting or whatever. So he said 180. I'll just give him 180. And we'll go to flaps 2. So now we're going to have the drag flap out just as we start down the RLS. And 180, we can do 180 until even 6 miles and we'll be absolutely fine, because having the flap 2 is the big difference. It is possible to go on the glide at flap 1, but it does get uncomfortable quite quickly at heavy weights, and you know, it's quite warm out there, there's no real headwind, there's lots of reasons it would be a bit uncomfy. This glide step star, going altitude 3,000 feet set.
Yeah,
he's only told us 180. And there's a glide slope. Good, it's sequenced, which is good, so the go around should be in there. We know it isn't. We also know the MSA here is 3,000. Oh yeah, there you go, well done. Seatbelt sign. And that's because we sailed through 10,000 feet, high and fast. Oh no, we don't need those ones yet. Right, so obviously our camera crew are doing a great job getting that ready. So approach checklist briefing is confirmed, decam status is checked, seatbelts are now on, barra ref is on 1016, MDADH we've got 239, and engine mode selector is norm as required. Out of fuel transferred, which is good, 2.8 tons of fuel, so we expected 2.6, so that's worked out nicely. And that, yeah, that should transfer to the inner. 10 miles now. Looking reasonable. You can also get a clue. If you look at the engines and they're at idle, you know you're pushing it. Or if the speed's like 183 knots and the engines are at idle and it's not reducing. Sometimes 180 flap 2, because you see how low the nose is, it can actually make it, even flap 2 might not be enough and you'll need the gear. But we're doing okay here. They're not at idle, they're slightly spooled up. Something, sterile cockpit, something, exactly.
Alpine 46 Mike Echo.
Alpine 46 Mike Echo as a token
well, he said,
of gratitude for my error. Speed is yours.
I'm going to go manage speed now.
Manta 293 reduced to minimum speed.
Minimum speed, Manta 293. Oh well, that's easy then. Gear down.
Air France 927,
flaps to 3.
Air France 927 negative, you're still traffic on the runway, which is now vacating. So in this case, 080 degrees, 06 knots, 0040 to 110, runway 24.
And flaps full. Landing checklist.
Clear to land, 124 left, Air France 927.
Luckily,
thank you very much.
Cabin is secured. Auto thrust is in speed. Go around altitude is 3,000 feet. Eco memo, landing there blue. That is the landing checklist complete.
Corrections, taxi to stand 25.
Bit of a ridge here, so we'll get probably an early 1,000-foot call out.
All the way up to gate Foxtrot.
Replay is recording. Thanks, Aviation Forever. Excellent reminder. Alicia's Maggie, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Right, so we're all stable. Yeah, so as we go over this ridge, we'll get early. So I think there's someone
From 524
in front of us.
You're cleared for the Alice Zulu approach.
Can't see anyone.
Number 4 and descend to 4,500 feet.
After Papa Oscar Sierra.
There's 1,000, stable.
Flight level 4,
And we are visual.
500, cleared for ILS.
Low water brake has stayed in so far, so that's good news. And we've got plenty of excuses already in. Depends on the airline. Good question, Juso. But yeah, if you needed to be stable, that was a bit early, because really it's about 3 miles, isn't it? So you could say, some airlines say you need to be stable 1,000 feet above the runway, which we know is actually 1,010 feet QNH or 1,020. So that's about somewhere here. But other airlines will do it on the rad out. It just depends. Thanks, Bernard Langham. And yeah, that's going to be stayed for our Concorde flight, but we will be using the 50K. We might be Speedbird 50 kilo. Right, we haven't got to go around, so we've got the go attitude in. We're going to go straight ahead, then make a left turn, climb to 3,000 feet following that blue line. We'll have to do it manually because I don't think the coding works at the moment. No, it doesn't.
Winds 08036 knots, variable 0402110. Runway 25.
Tailwind.
Cleared land, expect 28.
Cleared land. 24 left, Manta 293. Right, we've got tailwind now, so there we go. Always the way. So, autopilot off. Won't do anything too much. The sun's just gone down below the horizon. Yeah, we've got 4-knot tailwind now. No real difference to landing with a tailwind in terms of technique. It just means you run out of touchdown zone a little bit quicker.
Tomjet 87 Tango, do you still have audio? Tomjet 87 Tango, after the company 738 has been cleared for taxi from your left to right, then you are cleared for pushing.
There we go.
Facing south.
Out with the reverses. Nose gear down, and low water brake's working. That's good. We're not going to make that first one, not at this weight and with the tailwind. Plenty of runway, so I don't like standing on the brakes for the passengers. It's just not very comfortable for them. Yeah, a bit of a float. So there you go. That's the magic of it. Getting it wrong with the tailwind, you do soon run out. But yeah, happy with that. There we go. Still using the auto brake. It's great. Let it do its work. Brought us nicely down to 20 knots, and we'll disconnect it and vacate. Forward idle, now we're down at taxi speed. Ooh. That was close to seeing the whole thing grind to a halt.
Alpine 46 Mike Echo, wind 080306 knots, variable 0.
We do have a replay of.
And you can expect stand 29er.
There we go, 2 coming in behind us, which is excellent. So here we go, we have an actual Palma de Mallorca Airport. Thanks, E-Boss, glad you enjoyed it. Thanks everyone for coming along. And he said expect 28, so we'll just take the drone out for a bit of a spin.
Speedbird 55, Golf, continue approach number 2.
Where's 28?
Number 2, Speedbird 55.
Oh no, 28's up there, that's good. So, we're off the runway, get rid of the strobes because they're blinding.
293, welcome to Palma, taxi to stand 28, take a right on south, then link, then gates. Golf.
South, then link, then gate, golf for stand 28. Manta 293, thanks for your help. Right. This is not the easiest airport to taxi around. So, he did say right on south, so that's going to be hard right, and then link up here, then gate golf here, and then up to 28 there. That's what I'm going to do.
Taxi 243, Juliet, Lincoln North.
Let's get out the way for our landing traffic. So we're going right on south. Get rid of the spoil. Oh no, we're going to well, we'll put those away, but we'll leave the flapped out artificially, as we know. That's a bit fast for that sort of attack. Yeah, we'll leave them out just for that. John Padfield, thanks very much. Glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for coming along. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks everyone. If you are watching on YouTube, do please leave a like, and there is a replay coming shortly. We can turn the radar off though. And I'll have to put all those lights on again for the replay in a minute. No, I don't think you can get. You can't get the captain's pack without the joystick. The captain's pack includes everything. If you want just that, you should get the throttle quadrant and the add-ons. Aviation Forever. That would be the best way for that one. Right, we're looking for link now. So this should all be working. So that's Kilo. As you can see, they've got actual terminals now. Lots of different buildings and textures put on there. And there's Link coming up. It's very strange calling it Link, but that's what they do. Thanks for the follow, Blitz. And there's our colleague, or one of our colleagues. That's great to have a controller. He's done a really good job there. Lots of airplanes coming in. Good, that one missed that exit as well. With the wind as it is, it's quite funny. Why did it come to halt? Yeah, with the wind as it is, you sometimes end up... Is it engaged? I'm not sure what's going on there.
Speedbird 55 Golf, winds 05.
Oh, there you go. So it applies the brakes artificially. Oh well, very strange. Yeah, with because with two engines, if you can't move, then that's a real problem. Yeah, it's if you have a tailwind, you'll notice everybody missing the exits and so on. It's quite fun. You're welcome, Chris Patton. Reverse screen simulations. No, I'm not doing cross the pond. No, sadly not.
Take a right on slow.
Ah, the newest flight recorder does everything except spoilers. I record whole flights from just after engine start. Oh, excellent. I will have to try that. So there you go. This terminal's my favourite one now. Those blue. Let's not get too distracted. We're going in by Golf, which is here.
Somebody popped just up there. Can you please?
Yeah, I must download the latest flight recorder. It's such a good program. I use it for those Hawk replays and the little air shows. Is there a way to start air conditioning without the APU? Well, with the engines running, you have air conditioning. So we have air conditioning now because we have the engines running.
All stations, we have information. Charlie QNH 1016.
Otherwise, you need a ground power or ground air unit outside.
Alpine 46
so now
Echo.
Golf, we're on Golf.
Give way to the
then right,
left, right, 10 continue.
Left, right, 28.
And Juliet give way to the aircraft taxi, that's right, and then continue Alpine 46 Mike Echo.
So we're going to go up there. There's 29. Yeah, perfect. I think there's a little aeroplane on a stand, which we'll have to ignore. That's good to know, though. I must get the latest flight recorder. That's happening sometimes recently. You'll go up to 40% and the plane won't move without brakes. Yeah, it's very strange. I don't know what that was all about. Oh, well. Flaps, yeah, as you said, we will do. I leave them out just because we're going to do it for the replay. We'll pretend if you had a bird strike, you'd leave them out. So we'll pretend that's happened. Thanks, DMB. Glad it helps you. New update for Watts 340, 330.
Palma from Jet, A7 Tango ready taxi.
Thanks, Martin Scoff.
7 Tango, left 11.2 for right side at Juliet Lincoln North.
All those special liveries. We painted the whole airline overnight. Very good.
Please, the better pushback tug driver was talking over you.
28. the better pushback tug driver is quite loud.
Talk to taxi to holding point runway 2 for right side at Juliet Lincoln North.
Stable update just released. Oh, there you go.
Taxi 224 right by Juliet.
I haven't done an update video for a while. I feel bad. It's been so busy. So you normally turn off the nose lights. We know we're leaving those on. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop in a second, whiz the drone around for a bit. And nobody look here. Nobody look here. Nothing to see. Nothing to see. Perfect. Right. Brakes are set, and I'm going to disconnect from Basim. So thank you very much to that controller who did a fantastic job looking after us all. That's disconnected. We're going to leave the airplane sat here running for the replay. But what we will do is just have a quick cruise around because I haven't seen it yet. So we've got the camera drone, and then we'll be going to replay. Now the drone has started to do that, where it bizarrely decides to start rotating, and I don't fully understand why. I spend a lot of time with the drone on this channel, as you can imagine. So there we are, parked up. Don't ignore that. Ignore that. So yeah, this is the quite the neat terminal, and I think it's got a full interior. Let's slow it down just a bit. Maybe zoom out a little bit. Look, excellent. Love that. My drone's too fast. Drone needs a massage. That's problems with his neck. Yeah, he gets tired. Look at that. They've got all the signs inside. This is a labour of love. You can tell when somebody really likes their airport. Excellent. I wonder if the shops are accurate. Does anyone know what shops you'd see? No. Duty free like that is all you ever see in airports. They all look the same now, don't they? So where's the... Apparently around the entrance, there's working lifts. This is very cool. I like that a lot. So where's the... Where would the working lift be? Does anyone know La Palma? Where should I be looking? Let me get rid of that. Look at that. Excellent. Love it. And for the last year... Let me stop recording. So we've got the replay ready to go. Yeah, for the last year, we've been reliving our sort of aviation life in Flight Simulator world. So having airports like this, and I'm just saying this in the context that, you know, I fly in real life, but when I couldn't fly, this was such a joy to come and see airports built up like this with all the scenery and all the little details. It's been great to have it. Thanks for the subscription, T. Nunez. So where would the main entrance be? A340, 330. I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Toliss on that. On the side of the bridge from the garage. The problem is I've been whizzing around too much. Apparently there's a working lift. Maybe I'll do a little video if I can find it. I'm assuming the main entrance is over here somewhere. I'm not quite flying to the same frequency as before. I wouldn't say just yet. Is this it? Aha! We found it! That's going to be hard to stay inside, but we will get a view inside. It's got a little sign as well. Oh, my drone is too fast. Oh, it's actually stopped. There you go. Do the doors work? No way. Well, I've never seen... Ah, the camera moves with it. No, it's moving down. I thought we were going up then. Getting too excited. Now the sign's upside down, so there we go. We found one detail missing. That's pretty good. I've never seen that before in a flight sim. Danny Rubel, good to see you. Thanks for coming along. Yeah, we've landed already, I'm afraid. We're now enjoying the lifts, but we have got a replay to come. But yeah, there you go. So these are some of the nice little details. An extra 22 kilograms. Very generous. Very generous. Excellent. Oh, and I know there's some hangar doors that open, but I don't know where that would be. It could be way over there. But anyway, as you can see, lots of textures, roadways, extra little roundabouts and things. And then you've got all the lighting. This is quite good. Remember to use the outro music. I will aviation forever. Thanks very much. So, what I'm going to do is put this camera into the internal view. Airplane's still running, waiting, ready for the replay. What view is going to be better? I think we'll go for let's go for a... Sorry about this. I think I'm going to go for this one today. I'm also going to just rewind the time a little bit to what it was as we flew the approach, just about. And we're going to jump into the replay. So yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, do please remember to leave a like. It makes a massive, massive difference to the channel. Oh, that's beautiful. Let's have a look. So obviously we floated on this landing. We know that. Speed brakes are in, right. Approach was fine. Just classic Airbus really. It's very stable. Didn't really need to do a lot. Ignore these control positions. I need to update my FS recorder. Crossed the threshold normally, but just did a bit of a high flare. Held it off for too long. About 5 feet off the runway, which does happen every now and then. So then we touched down there. Still had one more marker to go. So there we go. That's it really. Not a lot to show. Thanks for coming, Simon Woods. So I hope you all enjoy your evening. And thank you all so much for coming along. you go, there's the float. I like the tyre smoke though, even works in the replay, which is good. There's touchdown. Oh, our landing rate's getting worse. We're going to stop replaying then. Back into the wing view. Just put it back somewhere reasonable. Hopefully the music will work. Just for that ridge we just configured about here. Good. And let me get the music ready. Right, so as ever, thank you all so much for coming along. Thanks for watching along. Thanks for joining us in the chat, or just watching at home if you didn't. Thanks to the moderators for taking the time to come along and moderate us, and thanks very much for those who kindly donated towards the channel. Really appreciate it. There'll be more guides coming soon. I've got the Hawk video, startup video out today, then we've got a fix info video coming soon as well, and plenty more I've got on my list to get through, and more streams coming in all these different aircraft. We've got such a treat, so many aeroplanes to enjoy these days in these simulators. So I'm going to say for now, have a good evening, thanks so much, and keep safe and well. Bye bye.